Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I am Dr. Jefferson, your host. Today we're going to talk about some accountability around some of the Kevin Samuels rhetoric that he pushes, and we're going to go at the argument today and have a pretty expansive conversation about kind of how this guy got started. I know that I've talked extensively. Why would I debate him? This isn't a debate. But this I've talked extensively about a lot of the content in which he's kind of pushed forward, a lot of the narratives that he's pushed forward. How are you, Liz? And today I want to speak specifically to kind of how he got his start and where he came from and what is the underpinning of some of the things that he says at this point. Also, we're going to definitely talk about this woman who was on his show, and one of the most, I guess, patient women that I've seen debunk the argument and avoid being emotionally disrupted or taken off her points and arguments. And I do have a theory as to why it is that that was her um position, but you guys, I'll start from the very top. Okay, also, please understand that my producer is definitely on deck today, and moderators, I want you to do your job to make sure that we block negative content and, of course, bots, right? Because for whatever reason, I feel like there are um, abundantly more bots than real people on social media nowadays. If you guys are viewing us on the Facebook platform, please take my invitation, hold on to it, grasp, hold to it, so that if you guys have a perspective that you would like to share live on the show and like to come up on the panel after I'm done with the presentation of material, I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to do so. And you can only do that if you're watching me on YouTube, because the links will not be included on the page on Facebook. Okay. Also, it's really good for you to be in the chat. Hey Joy, how are you? Shout out to the chat room. My chats are always live. You guys are always pretty much engaged, and we have, some interesting things to talk about over here. You said nothing is stopping that toxic man and his hate train. His followers just keep growing. He'll be on 2 million soon. Oh, definitely. We're going to talk about that a little bit, Danielle. We are going to talk about that today. Okay, so how many of you know the history, the backstory to Kevin Samuels evolving into this space where he is this relationship coach, um, image consultant, or whatever he wants to call himself? Uh man. So, and it's interesting. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the level of transparency that Kevin Samuels had um in this video before we hit the play button, just in case you didn't see it. Um oh, no, I'm not. So on my personal pages on Facebook, my streams still will go there to like my personal pages, but and it's one of them. One of my personal pages is a follow page, but it will not go to my um public figure profile anymore during this month. So that stopped already, unfortunately. So I'm sorry to those folks on Facebook, but you guys have definitely got to come to the YouTube side to join the conversation. The link is definitely in the Facebook description, so you guys can come on over here. Because I can't type to you, I can't see your comments and stuff like that and post them. Um, and have you guys sharing the conversation. So you definitely want to do that. So let me go here and grab my ticker for support. So, how many of you know the background of Kevin Samuels and how he came here before I start talking about that? Make sure I put this up. Even though I put my disclaimer at the very onset of the video coming on during my introduction, I think it's very important to make sure that you got what you need to cover the fair use and us reviewing the content, because Kevin Samuels is one that thinks he's very slick in his descriptions, even though this one is an oldie but goodie. And I think that if he were smart, you know, methodically, he would have definitely taken this down. But I'm not sure that he knows that this is still up here lingering. Because I did notice that he took a lot of those what does Cynthia G call it? Struggle bag, trash bag, struggle dusty. He took a lot of those struggle videos down. You said, I think he started with men's fashion first. I'm not sure. Okay, so Kevin Samuels started in college dropout, um, door to door marketing, and what do they call it? Cold calling sales, but cold sales from door to door. And then moved into having a job at, what was that, Office Depot or something like that. And he started sniffing fragrances and looking at people, observing people who had the good life. And he's looking at folks just trying to basically see what it is, like, what is life goals for me right now? Right. And it landed him somewhere. And this guy, if you guys don't know him, he's considered to be the first of many MGTOW men in the Black community. He was considered to be like the voice of Black male misogyny in the new coming um, generations of the 2000s, right? You said Kevin Samuels taught me how to put cologne on, which was weird because I grew up with a father who was able to do it himself. Joy, I cannot with you today, okay? She is on it today. But so this is the guy who gave Kevin Samuels his first fresh start. Okay. So what's the commenter who says Kevin is live right now? Why would you debate him? Okay, let me get it. 3 trash bags carrying struggle dusty. I love it. But so we're going to jump right into this. Just understand that all the content that we view on this channel is strictly for the accountability conversations, because Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson is about having the conversations around accountability that sometimes appear and are difficult for us to engage in, because it's sometimes hard for us to accept some innate truths. Okay. And sometimes we're going to have those conversations that make us feel uncomfortable, and we're going to have to give credit where credit is due, but it's not nice for us to give it. But that's what this platform is for, so that we can elevate, educate, and provide accurate insight as to how we can reposition ourselves as people who identify with the Black and Brown community in America and abroad. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hit this play button and listen to this 3 trash bags carrying struggle dusty. Shout out to Cynthia G, y'all.
CIA, what's up? Moderators, hopefully you guys are in the house. I'm sure you guys already know who I have here with me, none other than Alpha Male Strategies. Guys, check the description. We have some rules, because you know when this man is in the house, chat rooms go crazy. Moderators, you're going to have your hands full. Slow mode is on in the chat room. Means you can only type in one message every 30 seconds. So ain't no spam in the chat. If you got a question or a comment you want read, you want to hit that super chat button or the extreme chat. All links are in the description. We're going to respect the panel, and we're going to have a good time, guys. We're going to have a good time, and we're going to chop up level 1 game. But to the 2 or 3 people who don't know who you are, please go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and tell them who you are and what you do.
I am Alpha Male Strategies, and I'm a dating coach on YouTube.
There you go.
That's making videos on Patreon now, so you can find me on Patreon too.
Cool.
Same name, Alpha Male Strategies.
Alpha Male Strategies. So, when you came onto the manosphere, man, you brought a sensibility that I hadn't heard, a different take. It was just
Mhm.
simple and point blank. Fuck these hoes
Mhm.
to sleep. By the way, if you're used to my normal PG kind of content, this stream is not monetized and it is not family friendly. We're gonna get into it because there's some stuff that you guys out there need to understand about this whole image thing and this whole game thing that this man can help you. This man can help you with, and I can help you with. Uh, let's talk about in particular.
Mhm.
You come from the stat. You come from the standpoint, and correct me if I'm wrong. You come at the game from a standpoint of status. Tell them what
Mhm.
that means. High value. Tell them what that means.
Well, this is the thing, guys. All women are searching for that top 20% of guys. Some say 10, I say 20. All right. What I'm trying to do is I want you guys to put yourself in that top 20%. I'm not about selling guys no dream about, hey, here go this book. Here go this
Mm-hmm.
magical book, and you don't gotta improve yourself. You ain't gotta dress better, you ain't gotta hit the gym. You can stay 300 pounds, you can stay working at Popeye's chicken, and you can stay dressing like a fucking basketball player, and you're gonna go out and pull the baddest chicks.
Right.
That's a bunch of bullshit. I'm here to tell you it's fucking bullshit. Now, the way y'all see my man right here, Kevin, dressed right now, if he to pull up on the dime, she'll hand him the pennies. She'll take them off and just give them to him, put it in his top pocket right there. And that's what it takes. Now I know I look like shit right now, but I'm grinding. But you know what I'm saying? When I step out, this is what I'm looking like. You feel me? And so I want you guys to know, I want you guys to think about something for a second. Look at Kevin right now. And I want y'all just to look at Kevin. Now, y'all are men. Now, if he walked in, let's say a lounge or a bar right now, look how smooth and neat, look at how his hair dressed and this, that, and the other. You mean to tell me you don't think women gonna start throwing choosing signs at him? I want you guys to think about this now. Now, if they're gonna probably come up to him, no. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna be sweating him fucking hard as hell all night across the floor. He gonna be getting eyes all night. And he gonna have a pick of the litter. You know what Kevin hardest problem about going out to a club looking like this right here is hating ass niggas.
Right.
Because hating ass niggas gonna see this and they gonna start trying to, look hating ass shit niggas do. And so what I'm letting you guys know is that when you look like Kevin, if you go out somewhere, this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. If Kevin was to get up, go looking like this right here, go somewhere, get something to eat, say it's 8 o'clock with his man at a bar or something, girls gonna be checking for him. And let's say he left that bar or lounge and then he went to a high-end club or a nice spot or a rooftop spot or something like that, women gonna be checking for him. All right. For one, it ain't just the clothes. If you notice, he's in shape. You know what I'm saying? I am not saying he looked like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. I am saying that he's not fucking 400 pounds. All right. All you got to do, you ain't got to look like you're going to win Mr. Olympia. All you got to do is be in relatively decent shape and dress nice and carry yourself like a fucking man, and women will be choosing all day, every day. All right. So
Now,
when I say status, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Kevin right now is looking like one of the top 20% of guys. He looks like he's successful. He looks like he has a good job. He looks like he take care of himself. All right.
now, guys, what you heard what he's basically been telling you the entire time. If you've been on my channel, you heard me talk about fit over fashion. This looks good because it fits. It is simple. It is easy to do. And I actually went out and bought this suit, especially for this stream, because I know I was going to get a lot of cats on here saying, yeah, that's cool, but I'm broke. I'm a college student. I'm just getting started. I ain't got that kind of money. This suit costs $130. $130, man. This is a Calvin Klein suit I got from K&G Men's Factory. The jacket was $99.
Okay, so let's get into this. Okay. So I talked to you guys about this being the up and coming Kevin Samuels. This is kind of where he got his real start when it came to him being insultive towards women, and how he started to frame himself as a person who had something of value to add to the conversation about how it is that I showed you guys the video that came after this one. I'm going to be very specific. We're going to go all the way into this, okay? So, I showed you guys the video that came after this one yesterday. We talked about that. Was that yesterday or day before? May have been day before in the late show, I think. But so you guys saw how he had very minimal eye contact, and you saw his mannerisms, body language, and things like that as they started off. But you also saw how he was trying to be in this position. It's kind of like the fake it till you make it, what we call imposter syndrome. And that was the way that he decided to go ahead and see what was out there. He was fishing for what was out there, and talked about how he had so many women, and having all these women, having sex with these women gave him validation. For whatever reason, our black males in our society are becoming less and less valued around character traits, because they're possessing the character traits that women ultimately do not want. And for whatever reason, like I was saying, people like Kevin Samuels have gone into this place, this space, this manosphere, where they feel like invalidating one another and leaning and depending on one another, they gain fame and favor of women, amongst women, and that's just not true. But I want to go to the comments here, because obviously we can see that this guy transcended from a dude that was trying to push image, positive image and fragrances and things like that. And now he's all in an uncharted territory, tapped into this with a man that he sees as an idol amongst women, and potentially he's trying to aim towards becoming him. I mean, and I don't know what this guy looks like when he cleans up, but let me tell you something. Looks are nothing when the content of your character is a trash bag, three trash bag carrying struggle. Liz, where are you? Type the word. Shout out to Cynthia G, you guys. I'm not gonna take her language often, but I'm starting to try and understand this language. But I'm starting to see where Cynthia G has gotten these mindsets or positions from. So if I haven't seen your comment yet, don't worry. I'm gonna go back to the comments once I show you guys these things. So I want you guys to look right here at the people who had already at that point started to follow Kevin Samuels. All right, he didn't have many followers then or whatever, but I want you guys to take a look at their observations of Kevin Samuels. This dude's like, Kevin Samuels looks sharp, huh? Okay, this is obviously a person who had been um following him for a while, and obviously we're recognizing this dude definitely doesn't look like, what he typically would look like, right? Man, I look good at 300 pounds. I can't. But let's go here. Let's see where these comments start to come into play, where people are talking about the language used. And I think somebody else mentioned that too. There you go, right here. This person. So this person obviously had at this point found an appropriate fit for following Kevin's content, around smelling fragrances and doing what Kevin Samuels actually had the credentials to do. Um and thought that this is definitely, you don't need to be interviewing this guy. And I showed you guys in the video yesterday, his video said that he was not a part of the manosphere. He did not believe in the manosphere, and that he was very much not MGTOW. Okay. Hey Asbury, how are you? So I'm needing you guys to give me where it is that this transformation that Kevin Samuels has gone through resonates with you. So, because we're definitely getting to something. Okay. And notice how in this video, okay, hold on. I don't know how let me go up. In this video, this man starts to talk over him. He's considered to be like the, abrupt alpha male or whatever. I'm just gonna show you. He's losing subscribers too. Interesting. I want you guys to read his description. He was trying it. Four pillars of a man defined back then: body right, game tight, image on point, purpose on lock. I just can't. I just the place where fashion meets fragrance. You can't make this stuff up. Okay? So let me skip through because I have a lot of content to show you guys and this ain't it.
No, the only women you deal with are the women who already showed some sort of interest in you, and you set that up by getting your image, your body right, your game tight, your image on point, your purpose on lock. That's like catnip to these broads. That's like, and it shows to other men who are out doing business. Men who are doing business see other men on their grind and want to know that person to see if they can do some work together. We got a call in the call queue. I want to take the first call, see who's here. Hold on, AMS.
All right, go ahead, bro.
All right, caller, you on the line, 202-423. What's your first name? Hello? All right, going back in the call queue. 732-778. You're on with Kevin and AMS. What's your first name, caller?
Yeah, what's up, AMS? How you doing, my man?
What's up, bro?
Go ahead, man.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Here.
Yeah, AMS, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's up, bro?
I can't hear you guys.
You can't hear?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay.
I can hear you, but I can't hear AMS.
Hold on.
I'm here, bro.
Go ahead. Go ahead. He can hear you.
Yo, AMS, what's going on, man?
Go ahead.
What's up, bro?
All right, so AMS, firstly, you got to be doing more question and answer sessions on YouTube because you're like the best at it. It's like my favorite thing to watch. I'm enjoying it. And I'm meeting all these other guys that you get interviewed on, and they're great, but they're no AMS, let me tell you. I'm talking about the top
you,
of
bro.
But anyway,
That.
my question to you, AMS, is I've got 2 or 3 girls that I've been banging readily, like, just you come over, bang them out, and then they're gone. You know what? I'm getting a little tired of it. You know, it's like the same routine over and over again. And it's sort of easier just not even to have them over and just whack off and just finish the job. You know, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me ask you this. What's the caliber?
Hello?
Because I never hear guys say that about 9s and 10s. They say that
I
about
can't
7s.
hear you, so I'm just going to hang up. All right,
Go
later.
ahead. He's answering the question. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, AMS.
All right. I wanted to know what's the quality of the women, because whenever I hear guys say that, it's never 9s and 10s that they're getting tired of. What they
Okay, so I wanted to point out in this video, and you guys are more than welcome if you want the links or whatever to these videos or whatever. More than welcome to go check them out because I have a couple of them compiled here to show you guys, and this one isn't the only one, but we will reference back and forth going through the different video content so you guys can kind of put into context. No, you have not heard it yet. So you could put into context where this guy has taken all of his ideals and ran with them, built this following, and decided that, you know what, where I'm going to gain traction on YouTube is to negatively value or imprint my values onto Black women because Black women seem the most confused, lost, etc. The other thing is this, right? Somebody tag Cynthia G because I hate to give her credit in amidst the way her content is now coming out. But regardless of how her content is coming out, if you see, this is the reason why people like Cynthia G exist, and why Kevin Samuels and Cynthia G's content kind of go in like a head-on collision with one another. Because at the end of the day, the woman is right when she's talking about these men who have a hatred, compounded internal hatred for black women. She doesn't have the full on purview of it, but I think this is the answer, Cynthia G. So these black men have learned to hate black women by way of seeing the black woman modeled by their black mothers, and the hatred that they have grown to acquire and increase over time, from not only the mom but their mothers, aunties, grandmothers, and things like that. Your average black male, and I say average black male because I know that there is an overall consensus that black men ain't shit. Black men just don't value black women and all that good stuff. And I refuse to buy into the crap. Okay. Black men, like all other men, value women in general. And it's a natural component to the balance that we're needing in order for us to stay calibrated. Men and women have an innate need for one another. We are interdependent on one another. These are basic constructs of just not even life, just life in and of itself, but also anatomy and physiology. So you said Sinji so very rarely, if ever, use the CF word. Which you mean which F word? Because there are a lot of words that kind of go to the Kevin Samuels movement. Like you mean like curse words, or you mean like other? Because one of the main things that guides the constructs of how Kevin Samuels has evolved into this guy right here is feminism, and that starts with an F. But that's a later point that I'm gonna make after we review like the third piece of information at a separate video. But to go back to the point that I'm making about this video, you see Kevin Samuels, who is a person who has developed in his mind, like, you will not talk over me over my on my show. Um, all of these things that he says to the average woman, not the sex worker woman, but the average woman, because he's learned from this guy that she should be fucking hoes to sleep. And when you have a non-black man call into the show and say, you know what, I just love all the content you put out there, but let me ask you this: what happens when you grow tired of just banging several different women? How about we go a step further, right, and talk about the medical risk and implications of it? Because since that's something that Kevin Samuels wants to push so hard for, what about the diseases and the risk associated with diseases when it comes to maintaining this type of risky behavior? So, okay. Oh yeah, but that's not that kind, honey. This guy right here, this one right here, the F word is amongst many of the words that he's gonna use. It's but that's neither here nor there. I think that the name calling and shaming, along with people, along with you trying to make your point about people, I think it's childish. That's one of the things that I do not like about the way that Cynthia G manages her platform. But who am I to tell her how to do these things, right? She's been out here longer than I have on these YouTube streets, so apparently YouTube doesn't care, right? So then violate community standards, you go right ahead and do your thing. But I think that if you're going to help to elevate the consciousness of the black community, you should do so in a way that's logical and not necessarily looking for the faults in people. Because if you notice, when I review content about everybody that I review, just because this is accountability sector, right, I'm not looking at the faults, but I'm providing people with viable solutions as to how they can rectify these things that perpetuate the cycle of division between males and females in the black community, because that's the overall issue right now, since COVID and all of that really pushed us to YouTube in a crazy way, addictive way almost. Okay, so he said it's not even about the it's the value system. Exactly. So Kevin Samuels has adopted the principles of this guy who is known for womanizing. Okay. And for the men who are on here, I see that Moneyboy Trey mentioned earlier that everybody needs a cheerleader, right? And I don't think it's so much of a cheerleader. I think that everybody needs a support system. You need people who are supportive of you. But accurate support doesn't mean that everybody just goes along with you. Not go along to get along, gang. Like Kwame Brown has brought to the attention of so many people. Oftentimes, that's the way that it presents. People go along to get along with you until they get what they want from you. Because as I featured in a previous show, everybody out here is using somebody for something. The more we find people to be useful, the longer we keep them around, the more productive they are in our spaces, and the more value they continue to add to us because we allow that to happen. And listen to the language that I'm using. I said we allow that to happen because just because you're allowing one person to add value to you doesn't mean that another person can equally come into your life and add value in the same capacity. It's just that it's about the fact that we find ourselves in spaces with people, collections of energy like we are, who are meant to be in those spaces with us at those times. And then we're trying to accurately apply not only ourselves and our purpose, but also them and allow them to be and fulfill their purpose in our lives because we're aligned at the same time in the same space for a reason. So just basically doing your due diligence, making sure that you navigate life carefully, wisely, and you mature through your experiences of growth. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit play again. Kevin Samuels was extremely honest back then about his cheap suits as he evolved. One sec.
Getting tired of is banging average looking chicks. So what's the quality? What's the level of these women?
Well, he dropped off. So
Okay.
let's do that. Go ahead.
But when I hear guys say that, what I want guys to do is try to improve the quality of women. Because you ain't getting tired of banging 9s and 10s. I can tell you that right now. 9s and 10s, you get a hard on when they in their clothes.
Right.
What you getting tired of is you getting tired of banging these average looking chicks. So what I want when I hear that, I want you to step your game up because you're dealing with average looking chicks. You ain't.
All right, so this is how he gets hit. This is how he's come into the space where he's rating women, and more specifically, now we know how he really feels about Kelly Rowland and Beyonce. He obviously wants to smash. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You ain't getting tired of. I guarantee you ain't getting tired of banging them Instagram model type chicks.
Right.
I guarantee you that. You don't hear Drake talking about something. I'm getting tired of banging all these bad bitches on Instagram, do you? This guy's banging average looking chicks.
There you go. Okay, guys. So here we're gonna do two things. Number one, for everybody who says AMS need to do this, AMS need to do that. AMS is still on YouTube. He's just on Patreon. So if you want to get with him, I dropped the Patreon link. He's still uploading on Patreon every day. He's just not in these YouTube streets dealing with this YouTube bullshit.
Nah.
You want to see the stuff that he's doing? He's still on Patreon, dropping content. He still does the streams every now and then. Number one. Number two, when you call in, you got 30 seconds to go ahead and state your question. You go ahead and say hello, whatever. Say what you like. AMS can hear you. I can hear you. And then, he'll answer your question when we get on back out there. But while we got more guys calling in, I want to get down to the next point.
Let me say one more thing,
go ahead, Phil.
Kevin. Also, guys, if you can't get through on the line, hit Kevin's super chat up, man, and I can see the message.
Okay, so I want to point out the fact that this is a male on his channel. And you guys are going to see exactly what I mean about this conversation with this particular woman. He has a tendency, and I've shown you guys several clips where he will mute a woman for talking over him and all that stuff, interjecting, but he can interject on them. So what happens when a male is in conversation with you and they interject? You don't say anything. Go ahead, guy, you got it. Who am I? Who am I? I'm just a peon trying to learn from you. I'm just trying to get in the game.
It's up the question up here on the super chat.
There you go. That's what's up. Show love in the super chat, man. This man is busy. He's the most requested guy in the manosphere right now. And I wanted to be able to marry game and image because, guys, they all go hand in hand. And even if you're down here at the bottom, everybody got to start somewhere. There is no downside to becoming the best version of yourself each and every day. So when you have your purpose on lock, all these things together,
Okay, so help me understand where becoming the best version of yourself is includes the image first, the external image. So the way that you see yourself internally is what ultimately leads to you yielding to and becoming the best version of yourself. You need to do some honest self-reflection and allow yourself the transparency and give yourself permission to unveil those layers that reveal the deepest, darkest, ugliest parts of you that definitely need improvement. I mean, it's just crazy to me, some of these things. So, how many men out there agree with the sentiments of Kevin Samuels when it comes to, coming and into your personal fulfillment, becoming your best version of yourself, and things like that? Do you guys honestly think that life is great if you find a woman who physically looks like a 8 or a 9 and you're continuously fucking her and several other people? Do you honestly think that that's fulfillment, like that's goals in life? Like is that what y'all really think? Like, help me out. So Samuels likely has a different attitude when interviewing and being interviewed by men compared to talking to women. I agree, but here's the thing: Kevin Samuels holds himself to the standard of being an alpha male. An alpha male doesn't learn to be an alpha. On the contrary, omega men who mimic the behaviors of an alpha male, those are the people who need to be taught. This is the becoming of Kevin Samuels. If you guys see his background and things like that, I think that image did become something that he mastered because he learned how to look the part, but you're not the part. You've never become what it is that you so heavy heartedly, wanted to and still thrive to become. So it's very interesting to me just seeing how it is that innately, right? Because this is the person that he was conditioned by. Remember, I had a conversation with you guys about the fact that he looks like he's somebody would take disorder as many times as he would call women bitches. Somebody come get this big bitch. Bitch, please. Bitch, what? These are Kevin Samuels. I mean, in the middle of conversation with these women who are ignoring his foul language, ignoring the blatant disrespect towards them, ignoring even the microaggressions in the conversation with him, just for an opportunity to present a half part of their point, right? And they oftentimes lose directionality of their point because they're distracted by his constant disrespect, the constant interjection, constantly muting them. These are narcissistic behaviors, people. Very antisocial personality presentation as well. So this, you're talking to a sociopath who has zero connection with human beings and probably no connection even with himself. But still, I want to allow you guys to just listen to this just a little bit more before we get to what we're building up to.
You become an unstoppable force. So guys tend to say this thing. What I tend to hear a lot of guys say they're on their purpose, they're on their grind. How can these guys really know whether or not they own it or they just tell themselves a lie?
Oh, it's easy, guys. If what you doing, you couldn't do it for free. Like when I was doing the training, I was training guys for free. All right, and then somebody said, "Man, you get paid for this."
So I don't know how many of you wonderful, lovely, beautiful beings out there have been watching my content for a while, but let me take you guys back to a conversation that I had around something that Kevin Samuel said a couple of months ago in one of his live videos on Friday night. He's on live now, matter of fact. But Kevin said nobody who's good at doing anything would do it for free. If you everybody's out here to make money. That's what he said. So let's see if he checks this guy.
This shit, I was doing it for like chump change, and then I found out you can make some serious money doing this shit. But I was just doing it for love. And with the dating advice I was giving to my clients, I was not charging them. I'm just giving them free advice because I just love doing it, and I wanted to see them get good results. So in other words, guys, what you doing is it should be free. Like, let me tell y'all guys something. Do y'all ever wonder why LeBron James is so good? What and the reason why he's so good, because he obviously loves basketball. And what I mean by that is, in the off season, while other players are gallivanting around and chasing tail and doing this, this man is already back in the gym working on his craft because he loves what he do. That's why he's great. That's why Kobe Bryant was great. When you have people that have the athletic ability, like Vince Carter or somebody like that, but they don't put the work in, then they're not going to become an all-time great. Now, you take somebody like Vince Carter, he had the ability, but he didn't have the work ethic. And that's what it takes, because he obviously didn't love basketball like that. All right. So when you love what you do, guys, I'm grinding right now. Look how I look. You know what I'm saying? I ain't out chasing tail. I got plenty of money in the bank. I could be at a lounge or something right now, but I love what I do. I love Skype sessions. I love writing my book. I love what I do. It never feels like work. It almost feels like a crime getting paid to do the shit. All right. Understand what I'm saying? So what you doing should be something that you got to ask yourself, could I do this for free? Let's hypothetically say you're making $300 grand a year, but you fucking hate life. You hate your fucking job. You make a lot of money, you work a lot of hours. I train guys who make $1 million a fucking year, stockbrokers in New York, and they tell me every day how they hate it. That's not their fucking purpose.
Right.
They make a lot of money doing it, and you know they work a lot of hours, so they grinding, but that's not their purpose. They hate it. All right. So you need to look at what you love to do. And I know a lot of you guys don't like to say, well, I like to play video games or this, that, and the other. Well, you need to start your fucking video game channel and start getting reviews on video games and get paid to fucking review video games. All right? Do something like that. That's what you need to do. I don't care how silly it sounds. All right? I don't care how stupid it sounds. You need to find out who is in that field making money and how they went about doing it. All right? All I'm doing is just following the blueprint of what I seen other dating coaches did. They started a YouTube channel, then they started doing Skype sessions, then they wrote a fucking book. I'm just following the blueprint of what I see other successful dating coaches done. So the blueprint should already be laid out for you. All right. Just follow what successful people have done before you and model their business model. All right. And monetize it. But the main thing, guys, out of all that shit is make sure you love doing it. You should love to get up in the morning. All right.
There you go. You should, and that's one of the things I talk about, guys. I want you to like who you see in the mirror. If you don't like who you see in the mirror, all the stuff I talk about is not to be walking around peacocking and putting on the front for anybody else. It's for you. You got to like who you see in the mirror, because you doing all this shit for you. Ain't nobody going to be patting you on the back and saying, good job. You're going to be grinding with your head down. You got to love this stuff. Now, here's one thing I often hear. Yeah, man, that sounds cool for you, AMS. You 6'4", 200 pounds, living in New York, attractive dude, you got all this money and such and so forth. Yeah, Kevin, you got this wardrobe and all those. You lucky like that. You lucky like that. How much of this is luck and how much of this is preparation?
Oh my God, it's hilarious to me how he literally, I mean, he does walk in his truth in this video. I don't think he even realizes how much so, but he walks in his truth. He realizes that he's definitely not attractive per se. It's just a wardrobe, right? And then we're looking at a Kevin Samuels that was up and coming. He hadn't even stepped into his love for the hatred of women yet. So I would definitely say he stepped in and he did exactly what it was that, I don't know, that he was meant to do. He stepped into his purpose, so he thinks. I don't know. So what do you think?
Well, part of the reason I came to this, let me see, stream, although I've been here a couple of times before, was of course Kevin. And I have to admit, I actually wrote an article about Kevin for my blog, which is about, let me see, media and current news. And the reason I did was because, of course, he's become the hot topic, or one of the hot topics on YouTube. He's become a sort of star on YouTube. And what I noted in my piece, which was titled Sharp Dressed Hack, I think I'm trying to remember the rest of it. Why there is, truth of advertising when it comes to Kevin Samuels, something like that. What I noted in my article was what the Kevin Samuels, a amalgamation of business techniques and business mindsets that are along with this kind of, I would say, neo patriarchal attitude or belief system. And that, I don't know if I had said that in my article. I might have said that in my article, but I'm saying it here now. In my article, I said it was largely what Kevin Samuels has done is taken a sort of corporate framework, corporate mindset, and applied it to primarily dealing with women and dealing in what I call the relationship sphere on YouTube. All these shows about relationships and men and women, and, you know, every permutation that you can think of. And so that, I think, is really the essence of Kevin Samuels. I mean, yeah, you have this visual right here, this graphic here. If you look at the two pictures of Kevin Samuels there, what do you notice?
Well, what you're seeing is a different Kevin Samuels than what you see now. He's elevated himself. That's the first thing that you notice. He's taken
Well,
he's taken marketing strategies, definitely applied them appropriately,
mhm,
so that he can gain ground. And I think that he's
right.
definitely optimized his you know, not only his audience but his content to attract more people who have those same negative ideations around women in general, and then more specifically Black women. So that shared ID trauma, that's what's making him this money now. He's capitalized on the advice given to him from the guy that I showed you guys in the first clip.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, that's a very good assessment. And your point about marketing was part of what I mentioned in my article. That marketing is a key component when it comes to Kevin Samuels. Like I said, he's taken these business techniques, these corporate techniques. Marketing is one of them. Promotion is another. And of course, he is a image consultant for men. The irony, of course, is that he talks to women. And so when you ask certain questions, when you look at Kevin Samuels, you look at this guy and you go that, and you have to wonder about him, because basically he is, as they would say in Texas, all hat and no cattle. He's all appearance. I mean, you look at these two pictures of him in suits, and it looks like something out of a catalog. It looks like he's modeling or something along that line. It's like an advertisement.
Okay,
And
so I agree with that, and
Mhm.
it is an advertisement in so many
Right.
different ways. But
Right.
so the first thing, let me interject. The audience wants to know who you are, so the people that haven't seen you come onto the platform
Oh,
before, go ahead and introduce
okay.
yourself again, so they know who you are.
Okay. As you can tell from, I guess, the title beneath, my name is Albert Lanier. I'm currently, I guess, a freelance writer. I was a journalist for 22 years, retired for 4. Also, I had been a freelance writer as well for 4 years, but came out of retirement this year as a freelancer. So I'm technically a retired journalist, but currently a freelance writer. So that's what I am.
Journalism never dies, and you can never retire from being a journalist. Mute the show in the background. I
Um,
can feedback.
go ahead. Sorry, what was that?
Okay, yeah. So this is nope. I still hear an echo. So you probably have to turn the show
Oh,
down in the background, like turn it off on the
oh,
YouTube
I
so that.
don't. Yeah, I don't have anything on.
Hmm. That's
I don't have
interesting.
anything on.
But what I was saying is journalism like never dies. So like we say, once a soldier, always a soldier. Same thing when it comes to you'll always embody what it takes to be able to accurately convey the message of what your perception is of things that you observe in the society around us, and make a very impactful argument when it comes to those perceptions. Could be
Yeah, it's
earpods.
funny you say that. In the time that I've been retired, people still refer to me as a journalist, even though I've written a blog for about 4 years now. So it's maybe you have a point there. I mean, I'm retired, but and I consider myself retired, but I guess in some respects you never do retire according to what some people think or what a lot of people think, I guess.
Yeah, because even as a medical doctor, I was a medical doctor in the United States Army. But guess what? If I see a person who is suffering of a gunshot wound or something like that around me, guess what? Those skills are kicked
Mm-hmm.
into action. Although I'm very much a psychotherapist and that's the way that I operate, the only capacity that I like to operate in right now, kind of dual faceted, wearing
Mm-hmm.
both hats. But Candy Girl said, "Are you wearing what do you call it? Ear pods?" Yeah.
Am I? No.
Oh, well, it may, you guys, it may be my mic. I don't know. I have a lot of settings on this thing. So the thing is with these professional mics, like when you're not a professional, on that level, you don't know which setting to put it on to minimize the feedback noise. So I may not have clicked something this time around. I don't know. But it's okay. So to go back to what you were saying, I think he's definitely
Yeah.
capitalized. He was in marketing, so he knows how to definitely market himself. He knows how to definitely alleviate the stressors that come along with finding the right content. And the thing is, I feel like this was his beginning. This is where he came from. So he built this
Mm-hmm.
platform after having this conversation with this guy. And this guy led to the many conversations we now see of him degrading Black women, not only Black women, but white women. And the conversation, I'm not going to give away my video content for today, but there are two more videos I'm going to play different parts of. And you guys, I want you guys to really pay attention to what you saw in his behavior in that first video. And even if you guys can remember the video from the other day that I presented, if you can retract your memory and kind of bring that back to the forefront of your brains, I want you to also look at that one. Okay. Because that one was before this one. All right. And no. That one was right after this one. It was taken right after this one, but it was his own presentation versus him getting on and having the support or cheerleading of another male that, I'm just looking at the body language, because that's kind of what we do. But the guy seems to be disinterested in general, in Kevin Samuels. However, very interested in his audience. So he said that was my mic issue the other day. Professional mic when you're not professional. Right. So I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to delivering this content, YouTubing and all that good stuff. But I had to have all this setup stuff when I transitioned to virtual therapy about a good 3.5 years ago, but fully the last 2 years. So, you get the equipment that you need, and then you notice, oh my God, listen, I could be doing other things for this. But um, but that's my stuff. But I think that in Kevin Samuels evolving into this very negative person who has a very negative take on women. And we've talked about some of the arguments that he makes about the fact that men could sustain on their own without women. And I'm even going to go even deeper into the allegations against him about his sexuality based on arguments that he presents in one of these videos. Okay. So I only hold people accountable, people. You can't make this stuff up. Like, if you're going to put it out there, if you're going to give it to me, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to present it and we're going to talk about it. So, Albert, what do you think? Do you follow his video content now?
Well, it's funny. I found out about Kevin, I guess about the same time most people did, which was when he had that lady who he called, I think, average. And that video went viral. And so I would say that in writing, before I wrote my article about him, I probably had seen some of his videos. Do I follow his videos now? I try not to. It's not.
These are
Go ahead.
recent videos.
Sorry.
Sorry, but these are
Uh,
recent videos of him. The one that I'm about
uh,
to show, the two I'm about to show
okay.
now were made
I
in
think.
the last couple of months, last couple of days.
Okay. I think I may have seen a couple recently, like a couple of his videos recently, because it was, I guess, in my YouTube algorithm. You know, when you see something once, it comes up at times, right?
Yeah, that's
And so,
because I
right.
definitely didn't subscribe.
So on another device that I have, I probably it comes up a good deal. And so I've seen a couple more recent. I think recently I've seen a couple videos.
Okay, and
And
did you see?
you're going to show one now, right? Is that right?
I'm gonna preview this one
Okay.
as well, and then I'm gonna go to the main theme of tonight's conversation, because you guys are gonna
Okay.
see, you're gonna really see a different version of Kevin Samuels that I don't think a lot of people have seen in a while. Even though I
Mhm.
talked about the way that Blue Jasmine danced around him, but I also feel like she danced around Adam 22, which isn't done often on his show. But that's a whole nother thing. And that's what we talked about last night on last night's show. So the one that we just looked at, did you see that first video? Because it's pretty old. It's about 4 years ago.
You mean like the video you were showing with the guy now? I mean, not too long ago.
Yeah, with the guy.
I saw some of it when I came on to this. I came on this live stream, so I've seen some of it.
But not prior to
Not
today.
not prior to today. No,
Okay.
I could tell it was older because he has a different background. It's like a bleached out background.
Right. Different background, different setup, different presentation. He said that he wanted to tie in presentation or whatever, image. He wanted to tie that in. So he definitely improved his image. And it does show you kind of from whence he came, if we were to use, proper terms. But I also think that in seeing that video gives a better understanding and gauging him. I mean, I've made several clinical conceptualizations of him and his behaviors and responses and things like that, but I never saw any of this stuff. These are just confirmations to the things that I already spoke to, because we talked about the effects of trauma on a person's conditioning and their becoming and their personality characteristics as they develop. And we talked about how if personality characteristics become inflexible, either by way of inflation and validation from outside sources, for people that are struggling with narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, those people sometimes get even more grandiose, and they are worse on the continuum as they continue to have more exposure, more people subscribe to the ideals that they're putting out there into the world. If we notice, like, some of the very infamous serial killers, Charles Manson, the guy, what's the two guys that are responsible for the negative ideation and negative connotations with the moving vans? Gosh, I can't remember their names. I'm gonna remember them. I think it was Leon something. They did all those serial killings from state to state to state, and I think they were caught in Arizona or somewhere. But they were the people known for just grabbing women and killing women, but they only became magnified when the other gave validation while serving out a prison sentence. And that was kind of a long time ago. I think that was back in the 60s or the 70s. So for those of you who don't know this story and aren't familiar with it, I'll definitely post some links once I'm done in the description so that you guys can check out the content. But there are a lot of things out there that I think people don't understand that are issues in society as a result of these types of people moving into a higher place of prevalence, and where they're seen and magnified, glorified, then given validation by society.
I think that's a valid point. I think it's also, I think what Kevin Samuels is he's, again, I think in his own way indicative of sort of the culture of YouTube, and specific what I call the relationship sphere. I think that he's a creation of that, and he's part of that. And I think in his, well, what he is has become this sort of, again, because of the amalgam of what I would call business techniques or business aspects mixed with being on YouTube and mixed with relationship and what I call this sort of neo patriarchal mindset. And it's kind of created this kind of what I would call newfangled throwback in a way, which seems contradictory, but and I think this happens in the wider American culture from time to time. Things that seem sort of regressive or seem rather old-fashioned come back, but they some come back in kind of different ways. And attitudes are like, mindsets and attitudes are also that way as well. And I think in regards to Kevin Samuels and in regards to what he does, I think that's the case. I mean, I think what he is really more of a postmodern extension of what I would call traditional ideas, but except some of these traditional ideas are now being spawned in the 21st century and put into a digital framework.
I can't even say they're traditional ideas, though. I think that he takes off of, and that's the thing about a person being very good with marketing and advertising. So I think he takes clippets and snippets of traditionalism and he tries to package them in a new presentation of postmodern
Right.
thinking. So it's not even about the
Precisely.
current thinking. It's about him trying to create his own community of people, which I feel like he's doing successfully. Which is also one of the reasons I feel like he drew the line of delineation between himself and the manosphere, himself and the MGTOW movement. He wants to be known as a separate entity who is collecting ideals and shaping a world where men can become independent of women, hence the MGTOW movement. And they could be okay with that if that ends up being their end all be all, and they have to do that as a result of women not conforming to these absolute gross ideals where they objectify the female body and the female nature in general.
Well, it's also pragmatic sort of salesmanship. It's sort of the promotion of individuality and its promulgation of individuality is better for him because people come to see Kevin Samuels. They don't come to see Kevin Samuels and the Manosphere or Kevin Samuels and his group. You notice that it's him alone. I should see in the picture here. It's Kevin
is him, but before
above,
it was him. Yeah, that's
and
what I'm saying.
and a woman above, below.
Yeah, but see, before it wasn't him alone. It was more him depending on the manosphere to give him his mark, to give him his credibility and validation to seat himself amongst the other creators that were a part of the manosphere, as we saw in that first video. So that's what I wanted to point out about that video. But I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your insights live on the show. And we're going to go ahead and hit play on this one because there is a significant part of this very brief video. I think this one's about 30 minutes or so long in its own content, but we're going to get into this, and this video is definitely lead us into the next where he's on with the woman of the hour, if so to speak.
All right. Well, thank you unexpectedly for having me. I enjoyed being on.
Awesome. Thank you. You have a great day.
You too.
I want a man that's a provider,
Okay.
willing to work
Okay.
in the beginning, but when it's time to have children, I do want to be able to stay at home and raise the children until they're able.
How many kids would you like?
Issues with me. Ideally 3 to 4, but right now I would say at the age that I am, maybe 2.
How old are you?
32. Well, I'll be 32 soon.
Okay. So you want to be a traditional housewife then?
I wouldn't say ultra traditional, but somewhat, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you want the man to be a traditional provider?
Yes. Ideally, I would like that.
Okay, that sounds like an imbalance.
I don't necessarily think so.
If you need him to be a traditional provider,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not getting a traditional housewife, what is he getting that's better than a traditional housewife? Because his responsibility is here. What's he going to get that's here or above?
What does a traditional housewife entail?
Well, you tell me, because you said you're not one. You picked the right one.
Housewife, I'm just imagining kind of being a slave. So
Let me stop you right here. Let me stop you right here.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you people from?
Okay, so before he continues his rhetoric, let me put it out there. So people have people's mindsets, individuals' mindsets are shaped by their conditional elements in their rearing. So your childhood, childhood experiences and the likes of that. Also environmental experiences over the course of your childhood. These are things that shape the way that you idealize the world, the different gender roles and positions and things like that, because those positions would have had to be modeled for this young lady. So apparently she's speaking about being a housewife, and saying, okay, well, I'm not a traditional housewife. So obviously in the family that I consider to be traditional for me, I'm not that. So it was pretty apparent. Right. Where are your people from? I know. But see, it was pretty apparent as to where she got her ideals from. And so I think that in the grand scheme of things, if he knew exactly where he was going from, where he was trying to get himself a good directionality in which to pursue this conversation, he would have said, okay, so what about your family of origin? What has been taught to you about the gender roles of a traditional woman, before he even went down that whole rabbit hole. And essentially, why would you defer back to her if she's asked you as the expert, right? You're the expert, Kevin. She's asked you as the expert, what is a traditional housewife? Maybe I have gotten it all wrong. He has an issue with giving reliable answers after he deems himself to be the expert over these women's experiences. So let's go right back into this video. Pardon my interjection.
My mom's from Trinidad and my dad's from Jamaica. So I see that's
hold on.
Why?
We don't need white supremacy racism. Well, all we got is this, that you think that the women who came before you were slaves.
It's not that necessarily, but just what I'm seeing in the media and just all around me. I see women trying to be this housewife for men, traditional housewife for men, and they're just getting like, can I curse?
Be prepared to be challenged on anything you're gonna say, because you tell me in the media, I'm gonna ask you what you watch. Excuse me? What are you talking about? When a woman who's, let's do it. Traditional housewife, what media are you talking about?
So let's, I don't know. Like I said, I want you to define what traditional housewife.
No. You
housewife is being home.
You can't overtalk me. That's how we don't do that. Stick it down. I said traditional housewife. You said, no, not traditional housewife. All right, so you was thinking of something. And then you talk about, well, from what I'm seeing in the media, I'm asking you what media? You haven't answered any questions. Okay. What media are you talking about?
Social media.
Where do you see traditional housewives in social media?
Everywhere.
Do you?
Well, I mean, that I know of, just women getting taken care of and not working. No.
So that's what a traditional housewife is, taken care of and not working.
To me, yes.
Oh, okay. So, and that's getting the shit end of the stick?
From what I've seen so far, yes. From what I've seen so far, yes. That's why I get your definition of it.
Well, why do you want it? Why do you want a man to get out here and work and pay all the bills so you can sit at home.
I didn't necessarily phrase it as that. I said
That's what it is.
I wanted a provider for the
You
most.
wanted to be able to work, and you wanted. I asked the question. I asked the question, so I'm very clear. I asked the question. You don't want to have to work to pay significant bills after you're pregnant. You want a man to be a traditional provider. I've said that 3 times.
Okay.
But how we get to it, you don't have to want to be able to, the one carrying the financial family load. You want to be provided for.
Yeah.
And then what is he going to get? Because he's not going to get a traditional wife. What is he going to get?
He's going to get the love and support that I have.
You can buy a goddamn dog for that.
Okay.
So you ladies don't want a fair deal. You ladies want an unfair deal. You want a man to go out and do the things that men have always been expected to do since time immemorial, but yet you don't come to the table wanting to even come and act in good faith. You, women like you, I'm gonna talk about you. You come in here talking about a traditional housewife as a slave. And I tell you what, you leave men alone, go get your girlfriend, go buy a dog and live and die by yourself. I get tired of you women talking about men as though we're something to hurt and abuse shit because you watch fucked up social media stories. Men are tired of having you put this shit on them. If we talked about y'all like this, you call us toxic. If we said, oh, traditional housewives are some gold diggers, then there'll be all kind of problems. But this is what I mean. You guys are used to talking about men in some of the foulest ways. Then say you want them.
Okay.
So let's take it down. Do you want to stay home with your kids?
I absolutely do want to stay at home with my kids up until a certain age. Yes.
Then where are they going to go after what age?
I was thinking maybe kindergarten.
And if you have 4 children, that means you'll be out of the workforce for at least 12 years. What do you do for a living?
I'm currently a flight attendant.
Flight attendant. So, being gone out of the workforce for 10, 12 years, think you're going to be able to go back to be a flight attendant at 50?
It's possible, but ideally I would.
Right. So in other words, your husband, if you have 4 kids, he would have to carry the load because even if you sent the kids away to school after the youngest is in kindergarten, you just sit at home by yourself. Ain't that something? That's what I said. So like I said 10 minutes ago, why does he have to go out and work and you get to sit on your butt at home? That don't sound like slavery to me. That sounds like luxury.
Yes. The way you put it, yes, it does.
It's not the way I put it. We just talked through your example.
I can see from that viewpoint. But I also had a question.
So just to interject, because I'm not going to play this particular clip. Anti-African Svengalis, I think that you did an amazing job of summarizing where the instability was when in her argument, in her presentation, in the way that she presented all of this. But also I want to point out the fact that with her personal view of what a traditional housewife looks like, a person who was a true relationship expert, a true relationship coach, and things like that. Even if you said that I'm a personal life coach, right? Those same folks, exactly, AS. So those people would know to go ahead and probe a little further into her history as to what exactly shapes their ideals around what a traditional and what a modern or postmodern housewife would look like. So that's the reason he didn't do a good job at helping her evolve a greater sense of knowledge, awareness of what traditional housewives, because he's too busy looking for the argument. He's fishing for information to use as flamed fire, right, for an argument. So where this woman is clearly confused and calling you for advice because you're supposed to be the expert in these matters, you miss an opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to elevate, educate, and provide insight. So here is what shaped this young lady's views, and eventually she mentions something that pushes him down that rabbit hole, and he only uses it negatively against her instead of it's yet again still a missed opportunity for him. But you guys may see that in the little part that I do go back and I play here. But here is the thing. Kevin Samuels has a real issue with helping people to see the actual flaws in their argument in a compassionate way. Okay, so if you're compassionate, if you're an assertive person and not a cocky or overly confident person, you understand that people need something in order to, I don't know, reel in those ideas that definitely have some level of value, because her ideals have value. She just needs to hone it in a little bit more. She needs to be able to understand where it is that she evolved from. And so, in understanding, okay, so she told you what culture her parents are from. She told you the fact that she saw a woman who was a traditional housewife as a slave. So apparently, this woman comes from a two-parent household where a woman is married to her man, caters to him, and is not valued or is undervalued, which is this guy thinks that women have little or no value. So if we looked at Kevin Samuels, we'd understand that women are not to be valued or overvalued. And she would definitely be in alignment with her purpose if she was to say, I'm not a traditional wife because I don't want to be what you push and what I've seen as a traditional housewife. A woman who isn't valued for the work that she does at home. She doesn't even acknowledge the fact that a housewife does more work than a woman outside of the home. And it's compensated less if we talked about the financial stability component, right? So if you're working on your job and you're compensated enough to provide for our household rations, but also to have a little bit more to go to the bar and provide for yourself as a man, that means you're being compensated more for being outside of the household while it is, and I'm working 4 jobs, being in the household, cleaning, cooking, washing clothes, and folding the laundry, tending to these children and their education, also preparing things and doing the research that it takes to elevate you and to reposition you and advise you well as your wife, all of the things that a wife is supposed to do. So, not looking at the actual value in these things. And even though it's perceived to be intangible, these are very tangible things that this woman is doing for this household, and it's playing to the stability of this household. That's the reality. The problem is black men, because they come from a very, these black men, let me be very specific, not our black kings, but these black men who are very insecure, they are so hurt that all they can see is their pain, the affliction of more pain and more pain. So they can't align themselves with the value systems that says that they're worthy, or they understand that they're worthy because they are not worthy just yet. So they haven't stepped into their greatness. Here is the thing. If you really think that a woman brings nothing to the table and that a man can sustain life and live out the rest of life longitudinally without women, go right ahead and see what happens. Let me know how that works out for you. The reality is, woman and man, male and female, are interdependent entities. Even if a woman is gay, even if a man is gay, they still need each other. Every man in the world could become gay. Every woman in the world could become gay. And these two different sexes would still have a need for one another, regardless of what it is that we look at when we're looking at the physical compositions of how men built this world that we live in, according to Kevin Samuels, right? Without the help of women, how they built this world, the sustainability of this world would not be a problem, because just because a woman allows you to do something for her doesn't mean that she cannot or she is incapable of doing that thing for herself. Kevin Samuel's shortcomings were in the areas of finances, and he felt like he was a less valued man. So these are his insecurities. By way of these being his insecurities, by way of him realizing that all of the things that the women that he was married to and in relationships with telling him over and over, you know what, you could definitely use a different look. Your image could use work. You know, you need to do something about yourself. You need to put yourself together. Ew. All of these things, women never valued his looks. So didn't he. As we can see from the very first video, he never spoke to his looks being something that would acquire him more women. He spoke to a suit. So the only thing that makes him attractive is a suit. If that's the only thing that you're bringing to the table, sir, and your little coins to the table, sir, you have very little value to a woman who is looking for a high value man. A high value man is a man that adds significant value to a woman beyond the components of her just being stable in life, but also things that helps her elevate in life. So let's see. Let me go to some of these comments. I see you posting them, but I can't read them while I'm talking, and I'm in a different screen. So it says there are different forms of traditional housewives. You have traditional housewives who yield completely to the husband, and others who are given more decision-making freedom in the relationship. Okay, so one of the things that I want to kind of talk to on Liz's point, okay, even a traditional, I know that you guys don't have a lot of intimate understanding of what those traditional relationships look like, because oftentimes these aren't things that are discussed until it's time for them to send their daughters off and to be married, right? But traditional housewives, even though it may look on the outside, because that's how it's supposed to appear, that the man is the figurative head, actual head of the household and the family system, traditional housewives had a lot of say in how their households and how their family and how their men did business. Okay. They didn't have to constantly complain. It's a natural part of the process to discuss where things are going, to discuss what it is that we need. How interdependent are we on one another? What is it that you need now? What can I do better? What is it that we need? What do our kids need? Do you want a new dress? Like, these are things that men would ask their women when the doors are closed and they're intimate with one another without being physically sexual with one another. Oftentimes, the negative connotation is associated with men being behind closed doors with their wives and thinking that the only thing that a man saw fit to have a wife for is for sex. And I think that you guys are going to hear in the ridiculous rhetoric once we get on through these videos that Kevin Samuel says out of his own mouth that there is something seriously wrong with the way that he objectifies women, and not only women, but young boys. And that should tie into why it is that he continues to push the idea of him as a 50-something-year-old man going out dating women in their 20s, because he obviously, there is something about the way that he views the way that men have evolved and their sexual lack of control. Like, let me just hit the play button, you guys. Let's watch some more. I'll go through your comments.
Before we go further,
I want to ask, but I didn't get to ask my questions about this scenario.
Okay.
Do you have a cookbook?
Do I have a cookbook?
Nope.
No, but
so you can't cook. So basically,
who said that?
I said that you can't. A woman who can cook. I come from cooking people. Women.
Oh God, I just can't. But yeah, he tells the woman she can't cook because she doesn't own a cookbook. But I'm gonna go ahead and put out there, you guys. I'm gonna skip through because this is irrelevant parts of the conversation. But guess what? I'm a very, very deep-seated cultural woman, and I work. My earnings are way above average, way above stable, all of that good stuff. And I've never owned a cookbook a day in my life. My culture, my history It's stored up here. So there are certain things that when women are conditioned, women don't need a cookbook to know how to cook. If you're intact with your culture, if your mother, your grandmother, the women in your family, even the men in your family have positioned you to rest in your femininity and learn the role of a female in the relationships and in society and in your family system, you learn how to do these things, and you don't need cookbooks. It's about creativity. Exactly. Exactly. So mm, let's hit play.
About 32 years. They got
Yeah,
married right before they had me.
thank you very much. See what you said to me, what reminds me of so much of what happened with silent generation and baby boomers. The baby boomer generation, my mother's generation, looked down upon their mother and their grandmother's generation because they had to slave for their husbands and do all sorts of kind of stuff. And then they realized that when they got to be later in life, that they had failed as women. They realized that every other generation of women up to them had done their jobs. They were the generation that spent all the money, sold the family houses. They're the most selfish generation that ever lived. And the ones that are still alive will tell you, we have failed as women because they're my parents. They made a generation of harder women and softer men, all because they looked upon what their mothers did as being beneath them, because they got a little funky piece of education, a little bit of government assistance, and were told that you were better than your man in the civil rights struggle. The only group of women that actually looks at the women past them as fools. But yet, now you're the most you make more money, you're more educated than the previous groups of women, you have more options, opportunity, you're freest than ever been, and you're the most unhappy group of black women that ever existed.
I don't feel that way because
the stats say that though. Okay. You don't feel that way. The stats say that though. 1 in 4 of you will marry in a lifetime.
You know, it's just crazy. Sometimes it's rhetoric. So why would a woman? So if you're a woman and you're on this chat, type a 1 in the chat. If you're a male on this chat, type a 2 in the chat. If you're non-gender conforming on this chat, type a 3 in the chat. Let's do this really quick. Let's gauge the population of people who are watching this show, who's taking notice of this stuff. So he says, I figure he's still shelling out bucks for alimony. He's not paying any alimony. His divorces were a while ago. But his women also were higher earning people than him. We can see clearly in the way that he outlines this, his perception of where women went wrong. He's looking at the fact that a little funky piece of education. I see now why he feels the way he feels. Poor baby. He's jealous of women. So men out here who are following Kevin Samuels, where are my Kevin Samuels followers? Where are y'all? Normally I have at least 1 or 2 in the chat who not only follow him but subscribe to his ideology. So let's have this conversation. Obviously, this guy comes from very broken beginnings, not humble beginnings, but just broken, period. He grew up in a household of instability where he struggled with the concept of who his father was. In the videos that I showed you guys in yesterday and previous to yesterday, as we've been exploring the becomings of Kevin Samuels, right? Those videos, my previous videos, I showed you guys videos where he talked about the fact that his father was not there. He was inconsistent. He was raised in a household filled with women. And he hated that. He hated his mother for the fact that she never spoke negatively about his father. What? She didn't parentally alienate you and you have a problem with that. God bless his soul. Anyway, her not speaking negatively against his father, even though his father was definitely, let me put it into words that he used, a rolling stone. And he was a pimp. He was a pimp without the hose. I don't know what that reference was, but those are his words. I'm quoting him. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, Those were his sentiments about his father, and also those were his sentiments about his uncles who were modeling behavior for him. Okay. Um, hit the amount of child support that he owed, I'm pretty sure when he first went viral on YouTube, it was enough for him to go ahead and pay that little bit off, because he never was ordered to pay an insurmountable amount of child support because he was always broke. And I'm not saying that to put Kevin Samuels down. I'm just saying it because these are facts. But we see he comes from those broken beginnings, and in his becoming, as he came from these broken beginnings, this guy had several relationships and women who showed him that, you know what, the amount that you value yourself is just not what you are. And he felt that he was now in competition, not only with those women, with all the women in the world, all the black women in the world, because these are the ones that he was choosing and he was marrying. Hey, how are you? Let me see your transcript. How are you doing? So his envy, possibly from what I see, it's resentment and envy of women. Yeah, so jealousy is a seated component of envy, and definitely eventually resentment. That's what I was just about to say. It's on a continuum. So his envy, as it built against women after he was jealous of the women that he married, grew greater and greater and greater, and he started to see more of a congruence amongst other women as the now women would change. So the women that he would see as compared to the women that he was raised with, right, these are women who saw the position that they were in as something beneath them. So now he says that this woman thinks that this position is against her. However, the woman does go on in this particular video and makes it very clear to him that, hey, what I'm saying is I saw my mom be constantly degraded by the man that she was married to, and I just don't think that she deserved it. I think she deserved better. He tells her, your mom was happy. She was lucky to get a man to accept her with two kids. A man who had kids on her. I guess he considers that exercising his options, right? And had kids before her. I'm so sick of this whole male versus female thing. It's just ridiculous to me. The the whole concept of it is ridiculous to me. People will sometimes have children. When you marry someone after you are in your 20s, after you, more than likely, if those people are worth marrying, and I'm going to say this just for what it is, at a higher rate than other people, then more than likely those people have already been married before, and life has taught them a couple of lessons about who they were and their becoming as they became people who were attached to someone else in a marriage and were trying to build and failed at doing so with those particular people, but also prepared themselves more readily to move into a more functional relationship and build with those people. So it's possible that those folks will have kids even if they've never been married. I'm pretty sure that with the culture that today's society suits, right, people are having sex at age 11 to 13. The realities are somebody's going to have a kid in there somewhere. Ain't nobody to pull out game that strong, and ain't nobody that careful. Okay. Well, maybe some of you are. I don't know. But the point is this, you're taking this woman's attempt to gain a better insight as to how she can position herself in a relationship more appropriately in her 30s. And you're basically, as one of my viewers saying, shitting on her. Says if Kevin Samuel said that he blamed his mother for not bashing or alienating him for his father, that's strange and telling admit. Oh, there are several telling admissions. There are several. If I had played more of that first video, you guys got to go back to the first videos to see the authenticity of Kevin Samuels. You guys will see how evasive he is, how his eye contact is definitely more or less incongruent for the vast majority of the duration of his videos. You will see how his personal self-esteem has built over time, but definitely wasn't intact in those times. He was trying to brand himself as not only an image consultant, and I'm not sure what modeling agency he's contracted for or done any work for, because I didn't see that in any of my findings, and I'm pretty thorough. Literally, I have access to everything. So I just didn't see any of that. So I don't know, somebody go out there and verify the guy's credentials. But he definitely doesn't have the credentials to speak on other people's relationships, even from a personal perception, because you're clearly hurt. You're clearly not in a position to where you can speak to goals in life for other people. But let me move through, hit play one more time, and then we're going to move on to that other video, which is the highlight. And we're going to introduce the woman of the hour. Again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you are not already a subscriber to my content. Also, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of content as I push it out there.
Okay.
And you said I don't want to be a slave, and you said basically you said your mama's slave.
Yes, because I see and hear the way that my father treats my mother, and I know that she deserves better.
Oh, you need to stay in your place. You need to stay in your place.
In my place, how?
As a child. That's your mama, but that's his woman. You need to stay in your place. And that's one of the main problems we have in the Black community. We got kids judging grown relationships. You don't have any children, do you?
No, I don't have any children yet.
Well, that's my point.
Mm-hmm.
You're judging your mother and father from a kid's standpoint. Mm-hmm. Not that they're just individuals. You don't know what your mama does behind closed doors to your daddy, but your mama knows enough to have her ass in a marriage. Mm. She got more than you do.
What's that?
A husband.
Okay.
How many siblings you got?
I have 4 brothers, 4 stepbrothers, half brothers, and 1 other brother. We have
how many children your mother have?
All 6 of us.
How many children do your father have?
Just the 2. Well, now.
So, hold on.
Yeah.
So let's start. Hold on. Pump the brakes. Mm-hmm. Your biological father?
Yes.
Went with your mother and raised kids from another man?
Yes.
No.
Later on.
Ma'am, I don't need your interpretation. The biology is all I'm concerned with. Mm-hmm. Your mother had children from another man?
Yes.
How many men?
My mother had children from another man. 2 other men.
2 other men. So your mama has 3 baby daddies.
Met my father.
So she's reproduced with 3 men.
Yes.
So your father accepted your mother, who had reproduced with 2 other men, and she hadn't been married to those men, right?
Correct.
Right. He sounds like a goddamn superhero as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so like I said, now and if you guys notice, like, he interrupted several times as she was trying to give context to the situation of her parents' relationship, right? And the reality is this: like I told you guys, the backstory for this young lady is that her father had children on her mother. So he had other kids, and some of those kids have passed away. Some of those kids have died, but he had other kids with other women. Even when he got with her, he also had other kids with other women. But that's one of the reasons that this young lady speaks to the fact that, okay, my mother deserves better, which, if we're looking at a comparative analysis of the roles that we play in a relationship when we're married, the reality is infidelity does not often kill relationships. I'm going to be honest. As a psychotherapist, relationship coach, positive impact coach, life coach, I wear so many hats, it's ridiculous. Marriage and family therapist, one of the most important hats to have that makes me qualified to have in this conversation. Certified family life educator, all of those capacities in which I sit. in a qualified position. The reality is there are larger betrayals at bay that cause relationships to end. Many of these things go uncommunicated. So Kevin Samuels goes further to say, relationships end by way of women filing for divorce. Women file for divorce more often. Um, Women do not get married. The propensity of black women getting married is 1 in 4, blah, blah, blah. He brings these things to the forefront of his argument with this young lady, but he never addresses the real issue here. The real issue is that here it is, this woman's ideals around relationships are shaped by her seeing a very abusive relationship of her mom in a relationship with her dad, where this man has had kids on her. And this for her doesn't sit right, because this isn't the type of life she wants. Because what she clearly is saying that he's not addressing is, if I'm a woman who takes on the role of a traditional housewife, I will be trapped. I will be trapped in a situation to where I'm dependent, not interdependent with my man, but dependent on this man. And as a result, I cannot reposition myself, even if I no longer feel validated in this relationship and find out that I need to leave as a result of those promiscuity norms that he's adopted. Now, let me see. Exactly. So I want to also say to the comment that you posted earlier, Al Show, that I told you needed to go back and watch some older videos of his content, because if you watch the older videos, the lack of authenticity that you guys see presenting now in this type of dude right here that is extremely grandiose is not present there, because he doesn't feel like he's being judged. He hadn't mapped out his niche for this just yet and what it should look like. Like, he's been building up to this point, and that's what I'm trying to get you guys to see. But I'm gonna go forward to go forward to the video of the hour, the lady of the hour. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce this content to you guys, because I feel like it is definitely necessary, and it's time. I think that you guys have seen enough of this particular conversation, and you see where we're moving towards. This is a more recent video, um, done by Kevin Samuels, by the way. So for all of you out there that are Kevin Samuels subscribers, I want to go ahead and say that viewers' discretion is advised for you guys, because this definitely may trigger you, because you may get confirmation of the allegations towards Kevin Samuels about his sexuality, from his own commentary on his show in this video.
Pardon me?
No offense, but it's in the kitchen, industrial baking.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, but what I'm talking about, man, is I'm talking about
You're talking about construction.
Have you ever had to work with heavy machinery?
To a lesser degree, but if I needed to,
Such as, give me an example.
I worked a job back home in a bakery where I was dealing with heavy machinery. In the bakery.
What kind of machinery, ma'am?
I mean, anything that.
Hold on, I think I need to go a little bit further back so that you guys can understand the context. I'm going to tell you guys kind of what was happening here at the beginning of this video. This woman mentions to Kevin Samuels that she was having a conversation. Please understand and pay attention to the language. She was having a conversation with her boyfriend earlier about some of the things that he says around the fact that women are not able to sustain life without men. Mainly because men built the world that women live in, and women are incapable of encompassing the said strength that is needed to operate heavy machinery. This is why he got into this. and to be in positions where they're able to operate and sustain the infrastructure that men built with their strength, as if it doesn't take insurmountable strength to deliver a baby. Good God. And I really, some of this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and hit this play
Thanos snapped away the women. Men in the main could live to the end of their natural existence by simply maintaining the infrastructure in which we built.
Correct. I think women could also maintain the
Okay,
infrastructure
let me
themselves as well.
but see, that's the difference between this. Let me finish the follow-up question. Could women maintain the infrastructure they did not build and they're not trained to run?
Yes.
How could women effectively do that before nature set in? Meaning, yes, you possess the intellectual capability to read a manual. You possess all of that. But still, infrastructure breaks down. Have you ever had a manual labor job or a job where you had to work with machinery?
So I will say, and I had this discussion with my boyfriend today, I do all my own manual labor at my house. I've changed
your own manual labor at your house, man, but I'm asking you, have you ever had to work with heavy machinery?
To a lesser degree, but if I needed to,
Such as, give me an example.
I worked a job back home in a bakery where I was dealing with heavy machinery in the
What
bakery.
kind of machinery, man?
I mean, anything that had to do with like industrial baking.
Okay, so no offense, but in a kitchen.
I said I wouldn't interject. I said I would not do it, but I had to. I couldn't resist. And he just has anybody here ever worked in a bakery before? Anybody? You know, Desert Woman, good evening everyone. Don't women run this country during didn't want oh, she gets to that. Let me tell you something. This is our later lady of the hour, okay? And what I really hates is that he labeled this Karen. And one of the things that I will say to you, black people, you are my people. We are of one another. And when it comes to accountability conversations, like one of the things that I always push very heavily here is that name calling is something that is, it should be beneath you as a person who is elevated in life. When you have to resort to name calling and shaming people in order for you to reposition yourself at a higher level in life, and you need that comparison, that and you walk around with that level of an inferiority complex, it says a lot about the content of your character. So I think that we should operate in a higher capacity. Stop calling people Karens. You don't want to be called a nigger, right? So stop calling people Karens. Just stop it. Just stop it, because it says less of us. It speaks less of us when we say that we can use the term in the slang nigga loosely. You understand? But nobody else can use that term. So I have to say that we have to be mindful of the way that we deal with other people. We also have to be mindful of the way that we deal with ourselves, within ourselves, when other people are looking, right? Because somebody's always watching, and you always want to be your best version of yourself, and your best version of yourself is not given and rendered into society or this world with you doing these types of things. It's just really not worth it. It's very immature. But this young lady who called in to Kevin's show gives validity to 100% of the argument when it comes to sustainability of this world. If one sex had to live without the other, and just until the world ended, because, and to be honest with you, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. If we had to say that if the world was eliminated of grown men and women were left here, some of those women would still be pregnant. Some of those women would still yield a male seed, and the world would continue to sustain. So the larger question is, how many men would be able to accurately cultivate and shape young lives of these people who are left, these children who are left, right? Sustainability conversations, right? And, and move into a place to where society now still continues to involve women, because women would still have to be there. Um, AAS says, notice how Kevin Samuel's demeanor toward the white woman is not like, oh, it gets worse. No, it gets even more demeaning. So just wait for it. But he's a person who is not moved by the race of a woman. It doesn't make a white woman is no inferiority. I mean, it's no superior to than a black woman. A woman in general is his target. Black women, more specifically, are where his hatred stems from. But he's an anti-woman movement. And I want you guys to just listen to the directionality that he's speaking to right now. Go ahead and share this content, because I think a lot of folks are going to be shocked. And please click off this video if you're an avid Kevin Samuels follower who does not want confirmation of the sexuality issues that have been in discussion as of late. Okay? That's all I got to say about that. So let's hit this play button.
Pardon me?
No offense, but it's in the kitchen, industrial baking.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, but what I'm talking about, man, is I'm talking about
You're talking about construction.
I'm talking about power plants, power grids. I'm talking about refineries, oil wells, oil derricks. I'm talking about heavy machinery, backhoes.
Of course.
Things that hold on, listen. I'm talking about the things that negate physical advantage that men have.
Right.
And there, you cannot tell me you can train a population of women to get them up to speed to do the job at the level men are doing it before women start to die off. If you understand how this country is run, how the power grid is laid out, if you understand how the logistics work, when Corona came around, one of the biggest concerns were that the medication flow was going to stop because we have a one-drop logistics chain. We don't have much for disaster recovery. Why do you think you didn't see toilet paper and water? Because all of the logistics broke down. People went and bought all of the stuff. There was no more stuff. I get that women have the mental ability to do it, but how long do you survive without clean water?
Can we take a step back in your argument? Because what you're saying is that physically women don't have the capability to maintain and sustain the development that's been built by men, correct?
Yes.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you don't.
Okay, so that's where I disagree with you. And I disagree with it because I will say there's a caveat to this. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. There's 2 sisters, 2 brothers.
Now, where are you going to disagree on the fact about the physical strength?
That it is very possible. So my disagreement is that it is very possible for women to sustain physically an environment that men have built without men.
No, ma'am. You said you disagree with the notion of the strength difference between men and women.
Yes,
listen. No. You can overtalk me. I don't do that. Okay. The average hand strength of a man to a woman is like a 17 or 70. I forget them. It's magnitudes larger for a man versus a woman. In the fire department, to be able to be a fireman, you have to be able to do a 200-pound dead man's carry. Did you watch the beginning of this show?
I did.
So I did mention that I was retired Army, right? In so many ways, I feel like this video is disrespectful to women who have served in the military in the many capacities. I think that oftentimes people have a misstep or misconceptualization and lost notions of what it means to be a woman who serves in the military and what exactly we do when we're there and when we're in combat. It's really interesting because I'm a woman who I'm very decorated retiree, and I'm a combat war veteran. Okay. And this is very interesting to me as a person who has done and moved in these capacities. And you talk about, oh, you can do it a person has to do a 200-pound dead man lift. We have to do these things for Nick and Knight. These kids that we're training to go on to the battlefield, whether they're female or male. So the reality is this: you don't need a male and a female are not comparable. The only compatibility components that we need to talk about, if you're going to position yourself properly in an online platform where you talk about the fact that women and men need one another interdependently. If a woman allows a man to do something, she allows him to do something. Anybody can learn how to deadlift. There are several men who are physically incapable of doing exactly what you just said. There are several women who are very capable. Just because a woman is not doing these things, it doesn't mean they're not capable of doing these things. Okay. The accolades that I have acquired over the course of my career in the military, I won't speak to them because, he's not even worth me justifying. But the reality is, a woman has the capacity to do many of the things that men do in their lives. Okay. The capacity, they can do all of them, but have sex with themselves. Okay. Because they don't have a penis. That's the only thing we don't have. We don't have a penis. I mean, but we could always put a strap on, and we could probably get that done pretty efficiently too, without the person needing an extension of that component and going and pulling out a toy and finishing the job. But that's a whole nother conversation. But a woman yielding to the authority of a man and allowing men to position themselves in society in their proper places and valuing our men, say that we understand that there is a certain level of interdependency that is needed so that we may remain stable as people, as human beings in this world. We obviously have a need for one another, and there is no group of women, including feminists, that feel like men are not a necessity. It's just that women are fighting for equality when they move into these places and spaces where they're maintaining these same levels of physical ability and agility in these jobs where they are working with heavy machinery and things like that. So, and it's interesting that this dude refers to a fucking industrial bakery as a kitchen. Has anybody, did anybody answer that question? Anybody been in a bakery before? Have you guys ever, I know I'm a person that believes heavily in homeschooling my kids and stuff like that. And I have a lot of children, right? So I believe in taking my kids to explore and see not only the things in America, but every country that we've lived in. My kids have taken sight of the amazing things around us, the things that make the world go. They know how to make glass. They know how to make light bulbs. They know how to shape vases. They know how to, blow in and, heat the glass up. They know at what height intensity and height index to blow and when to let it cool and how to roll it around. They know how to create crystal. These are things that my children know how to do, because for me, I think it's really interesting, and it's important to educate your kids in every capacity. So school systems aren't going to do all of that for you. I'm just saying, as parents, you have to be very proactive. And I think that you have to select men who believe in education the same way you do. Okay. And so at the end of the day, these are basic things that without the internet, people would know how to run this world and continue to exist and coexist healthily. Okay. I totally agree, Desert Woman. Like, totally agree. You guys, it's just exactly. And to be honest with you, my physical fitness test, whenever we did PT tests, okay, it's crazy to me. I would outperform many of the men. The standards of passing may be lower for a female, but that has nothing to do with how she performs in those 2 minutes of testing. It's not long. It's not like it's an endurance thing. Good God, just the intelligence of this person. It's it's quite interesting to me. So let's go ahead. Let's hit the play button again.
And women fail the test, the physical readiness test. Women, no, you can't overtalk me. Women fail the physical readiness test 65% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what exercise they failed? You want to know what exercise they failed? Hanging from a pole, hanging from a chin-up bar, pulling your knees to your chin. That's what the women failed. It wasn't lifting heavy weights. It was moving their own French toast body weight.
Yep.
So telling me just because you may be a rugged woman that women like you are the norm is a fantasy.
Well, so number one, I take the slight offense to you calling me rugged.
What would you want me to call you, ma'am? You came in talking about your background and you worked with industrial machinery. What would you want me to call you?
Well, number one, with all due respect, that was one instance when I was 16. You asked me for an example. So
what would you like me to call you?
You can call me by my name. That's
no. The modifier. You are making yourself seem as though you are different than most women. Are you this? Okay, let's back up.
Yeah,
and here's the thing. If you don't like look, if you watch my show, ma'am, you should know how I speak. So this is no snowflake zone as far as I'm concerned. If you can't handle it, I'll bid you a good night.
There's no snowflake here.
Well, then then what's the insult in calling you rugged?
I think rugged comes with connotations that aren't necessarily.
What is the insult in calling you rugged?
Rugged comes with connotations that.
What would you like me to call you when you're trying to make yourself seem as though I can do this heavy machinery? I did industrial banking. I'm 1, 2, or 5 kids, and I was born this way. When most women don't talk about these things as part of being their feminine asset, that's considered to be far more masculine.
Right. So your argument is flawed, and this is,
Right. My argument's flawed. Women. Okay. Here's where we're going to ultimately get to. I'm not going to get into a circular argument with you, man. You can believe what you want to. I really don't care whether you believe what they want to. But the bottom line is, you can believe what you want to, but you cannot show me that if women can do these jobs and run the infrastructure, why are you not doing it? Because they pay better. And it's easier for women to.
We can allow men to do it.
You don't have to. Because you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Well, okay. So in other words, you benefit off of men doing them. Are you honestly trying to tell me that you think?
Yes.
No, I've said you're not going to overtalk me. I meant that shit. Maybe you overtalk your boyfriend. That doesn't work here. Are we clear? Nod your head and say we clear. Good. I'll be nice to you if you're nice to me, man, but I'm not going to allow you to overtalk me like that. If you're honestly telling me that women can get up to speed and run the infrastructure to the same level of efficiency that men can, I think you are sadly mistaken. But you are free to be sadly mistaken.
May I speak?
Sure.
So that is not the argument that I'm making. Initially, you said that women are incapable of surviving without men. Men are capable of surviving without men.
That is not what I said. I did not say incapable. I said the majority of women were not lifted into. No. Let me clear you up because I know what I say because I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. I said women are incapable of living to the end of their natural existence in mass, meaning that, yes, by the time women actually got up to speed and learned. See, here's the thing. The presumption is that the requisite information that you and other women need to learn is digital and that the systems are still running. But see, when the power grid fails, all the information and the manuals are where? They're warehoused in libraries and in other places. And you would have to actually physically go read this stuff. And the time in which it takes you to actually download and read the knowledge, there are women who are on dialysis. There are women who are on oxygen. There are women who need all kinds of things. Women are dying because because the infrastructure is breaking down. While you're getting up to speed, there is attrition. Men don't require that because they're already doing it. It's simply knowledge transfer from one man to another. There's no needing to get up to speed. It's, hey man, do this, 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 this. There is no transfer because there are no women already doing that. Can we agree on that part?
Yes, and can we add another piece to this then? Because you raise an excellent point to another piece that women outlive men. In retirement homes, you see more women.
You outlive men because of modern advances. Women didn't typically outlive men because you would die most of the time where?
In childbirth.
Childbirth,
yeah.
Exactly. So even your lengthy existence is due to men.
Okay, so then isn't that the circular argument that?
No, it's not. It means that the reason you women.
So just wait. What man? What man? What man is our lengthy existence due in part to? I'm just, it's crazy to me that a man who finds it to be his fancy on his show to be comparative of males and females in the capacity that he does. You guys, let me tell you something. Wait for this woman, because even though he was disrespectful, demeaning, and continued to devalue her and her insights, she never presented an invalid point. That's my first one. And then she stuck to her gusto. Okay. She stuck to the gist of her point, and she does reel it in, and she's reeling it in yet again. And he doesn't even realize he's losing the argument because he's not even listening to understand, because now he's emotionally taken off. When emotionality enters a conversation, pragmatics leave. So the thing is, your amygdala is now in defense mode, sir. Exactly. He's never done a hard, and she's going to talk about that too now. That's why I said that she was a perfect example, because of all the women that I've heard have conversations with him. To me, she mimics my points and my perspective and my approach the most, because she sticks to devaluing and debunking the lies in his theories, in his ideals. So if you're going to say that a small portion of men, a medium portion of men do this type of work, blah blah blah, and you think that men can live out and sustain life once these power grids fail at some point, blah blah blah, right? Okay. If that's what you think, Kevin, more power to you. Ignorance is bliss for most people. Okay. But the reality is this woman refuses to allow your forced ignorance to be a component that takes over her life and her reality. And that is what I liked about the way that she presented herself, held her argument, and stayed her course. The fact that she was able to recognize that you devalued her because of her skin color was something that I have to commend her on, being able to elevate herself and continue her point. Because not a lot of women, especially us Black women, when we're on there, are able to do that, because I think that there are certain things that he says that we recognize as our truth simply because it's coming from a Black man. And I think that that says a lot about us as women, as the way we're not responsible for conditioning these young women that are calling his show. So it's more, the accountability lies on us women, the older women of society, who aren't giving these women what they need when it comes time to build their self-esteem. So positive parenting is definitely needed, and obviously we fail these young women. What can we do about that? That's my question for you guys. But to go back to the point that she is making, okay, he made a joke of and made light of the physical capabilities of women, and had the nerve to tell her that women aren't in these jobs and they pay better. They pay more for men. There is a 9% differential. Let's talk the numbers, okay, Kevin? Because I'm a person of numbers too, but I'm with facts and stacks, not manipulation. So there is a 9% pay differential in women working in factory and construction jobs, um, versus that of men. So the pay differential is unfair. They're doing the same work, oftentimes more work, because just because a man is a man doesn't mean that he's going to step in and perform in the capacity that a man should and do his job, because some men are lazy as hell. They have poor work ethic. Some women are lazy as hell. They have poor work ethic. So the reality is, people are people. It's not about a male versus a female in their capacity to be able to do these jobs. Manuals, reading, that's what women did. Men, oftentimes, if we're looking at the pre-modern men, the traditional men were not educated. They were not. If we went all the way back to the very beginning framework, education was taught to women. Men were not educated. They were the hunters and the gatherers, the cavemen. They didn't have any education. The women were responsible for teaching what could be taught to the young people, young children. And the only education a man had was how to hunt. And he learned that by trial and error. Literally. literally. Okay. So I think that doing this comparison is a dead argument, dead seated argument, but I'm going to hit the play because I want you guys to see where he identifies the components of his sexuality. Okay.
Can feel like you can do what we do is because we've civilized the world in general to where you have forgotten how hard it actually is to live. Ma'am, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Don't believe me. Go after this show is over.
I didn't say that.
Listen. Okay, but listen to what I'm about to say. Go after the show is over and go to Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Go look for a series called The Island by Bear Grylls.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
All right, in season 2, if you watch it, you saw men and women. The producers came out, said they manipulated the environment because women were dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
Women threw women for the audience.
Why does he always make that reference? Is that the only thing that he can find on TV to have validate his ideals? So if you have a woman out there and a man out there in the current situation that we're in right now, and you slam them into that environment, and the world isn't slowly ending, because that's a process, by the way. You know, the power grid's ending and going out, that would be at least 15 years to 20 years. And then the kids would have to learn how to be stronger. But guess what? Human beings are very adaptable. We adapted from the beginning of time, the Stone Ages, and into what we are now. And how the anatomy and physiology of human beings works is the harder the regions and your environment are on your body, the more adaptable your body components and your composition is. And I think that you would know that, Kevin, if you'd finished college. I don't know what you went to school for, but God bless your soul. But you know, at the end of the day, you learned that, I believe, in high school even. So education, common sense isn't common to everybody. But I will say this, you know, this dude is he's grasping at straws now. But let's go ahead and let's hit this play button.
These people start off on the islands. They have a few matches, knife, a little bit of string, some fish hooks, some things like that, and 2 large canisters to actually purify water. 2 for everybody. What did the women do? Women actually found a pig, not a pig. When they finally decided, they found the pig. They found the pig, but they named the pig. Mm-hmm. They named the pig and didn't want to kill the pig. Right. But when they finally decided that they needed to kill the pig and eat something, they finally decided they killed it. And guess what? Where did the women, after they gorged themselves, what they decide to do with the meat? They decided to put the meat into one of the water canisters to store it, to keep it from bugs and pests and everything else. And guess what happened? Bacteria, everything set in. They went and opened the water canister and it was putrid. What did these women do? They took the putrid canister and put it in the river and left. They cut their water supply by half and damn near died of dehydration. Yep. They had to go back 4 days later after the rescue team came in and said, "Bam, you can't survive. You can't make enough fresh water on this island. There's not enough. You can't capture enough. You need to go take that canister, clean it out, and use it to boil and purify water." If they hadn't been told that knowledge, they'd all be dead. That is irrefutable.
So I have enough respect for you to say this. Don't you think, though, that is fictionalized by reality TV in order
to
entertainment?
I think what's fictionalized. What I think is fictionalized is you women actually thinking that there's not much difference between us. Because you saw those women.
Oh, no.
You know, ma'am, you asked me, you saw those women. You saw those women at the end of 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, men had built a functional shelter. They had killed large prey. They had fished. They had actually repaired the net to capture lots of fish. Men were living well. Matter of fact, the only guys that had been taken off the island were due to actual falls and injuries. In week 5, women were still trying to lead by French toast committee. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ma'am, I get that you may be a different caliber and cut of woman, but you are not the majority.
So is it not fair then to say and I'm going to take that as a compliment, but is that not fair to say then that there's a a codependency and a healthy codependency between men and women, that we both require each other for a healthy existence?
No,
so that
I'll tell you why it's not. I'll tell you why it's not. I will tell you why it's not. Let me give you an example of why it's not. Let me give you an example. Let's go back 1,000 years. Okay. Actually, let's go back even further. Let's go back to the time of Alexander.
Okay, so before we go to this part right here, this is it. So for you guys who are Kevin Samuels followers, you want to click off because he's about to show his truth. And I'm not sure how comfortable that will be for you guys. Essentially, because obviously he's already refuted the fact that men and women need one another to be in, healthy coexistence with one another. Hey Barrett, is Barrett? Yeah, Barrett Sands, how are you? He's already done that part, but let's get even more into this where he actually makes specific references. He's yeah, I don't even want to. Let me just hit this play button. But for Kevin Samuels followers, deep seated Kevin Samsers, I don't know what should we call him? Samian, Samians, Kevians. I don't know. You definitely want to click off now because this ain't it. This is not what you want. But I'm gonna hit the play button anyway.
Let's go back to the time of warring states. How come
Alexander the Great?
Yeah. How come men could walk? How come men could live in armies of all men and be gone from their city, state, province and live with all men?
Yeah.
That shows we don't need you. The only thing we need you for is reproduction. We want you for sex. But see, even then, a lot of times those guys had pages or squires. Those young boys were sexual companions to these men as well.
Right.
Why when they had followers camp, what was in followers camp? The brothel. Because that's what the soldiers who had R&R were able to go spend their money in the brothels.
So how are the women got their sex from?
And because back then the men who were married had to be able to provide for a woman. Most men lived and died in the military. Many men lived and died in the military. Where were the equivalent women doing this? Marching across the world, discovering the world. You can't, ma'am. You don't have the strength to do it.
So we're no longer in Alexander the Great times, right? There's a lot of modernization that has removed a lot of the physical requirements for men, for even men to do a lot of physical jobs. So how does that take place then in modern times? How is there
because this is why you see so many shows like The Walking Dead and stuff coming up.
Right.
Because men still, because like it or not, men, even though we're in modern times, we are still the human animal. We still have our hunter instincts. We still know what needs to be done. The only reason women can make the argument you're making is because it is modern times. Ma'am, what is more vulnerable than a pregnant female?
Hey, you know what? There's a lot of women in my life who take place then in modern times. How is there
because we had to be able to provide for a woman. The only thing we need you for is reproduction. We want you for sex. But see, even then, a lot of times those guys had pages or squires. Those young boys were sexual companions to these men as well.
There's your replay. Oh God. So anti-Afro Spangalish. Let me tell you something. He does not want to pay attribute to any woman at all in history, regardless of what she has or hasn't done for the stability of the world, for building this world or any of that stuff, because at the end of the day, women are just not important in the grand scheme of things. And like he said, that's what men are for. Men can have sex with men, so they don't need women. If they want to procreate as a means to continue to provide a legacy, they have to be able to provide for these women. And so they're out here dying in war. And the battle of many men is definitely a thing. But let me tell you about our Finnish men and European men in general. Men outside of American men. Men outside of American MGTOW Kevin Samuel follower men. I'm gonna make sure I narrow this down as far as it could be narrowed down, because the generalization thing is something that I absolutely hate. And the reality is, most men do not subscribe to this foolery. Most men enjoy laying down every day with a beautiful woman who he values in the fullest capacity when he is a straight man. Okay. Now, what gay men value and what gay men don't value in that same said capacity aligns with Kevin Samuel's mindset and his ideology. I will say that. However, what I notice is that with the various gay men that I know personally, they don't go out bashing females because they just don't. They don't see females as their competition because the vast majority of them aren't in the closet, but they do say a lot about men that they label as trade. I've learned lots of things about those types of guys. These types of guys operate exactly like Kevin Samuels. And these guys are going out looking for squires or followers, as Kevin Samuels is looking for squires and followers and men, obviously, for him to have sex with. I'm only using this guy's words. You guys, I can't make this stuff up. He gave it to me, so it is what it is. What can I do? I'm only a person that's gonna hold him accountable for saying the things that he said. So let's get back through and get to the gist of things. You gotta love the way that this woman makes her arguments. Such an intelligent woman. By the way, her name's not Karen. Exactly.
and in certain parts of Africa,
Amazonians? You mean fiction?
No.
This man is saying that Brazilian women do not exist. He's saying that women in Brazil are fictional. Nope, she doesn't want to know who hurt him, because that's pretty clear. She just wants to argue the points, the perspectives. She wants to help women in their constant insecurity, as they're calling this man's channel. She wants to help provide clarity to women that this man clearly has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And this is definitely necessary, because I think that in the grand scheme of things, as we move to a greater level of accountability for our positions in these women, these many young women being so lost and moving to the point of calling this guy's show. Oh, I know. But as we reposition ourselves and we move into that place, we need to see where it is that we need, or how it is that we need to identify these holes to magnify the capacity of these young women to not only seat themselves in their greatness and their worthiness, but also to recondition them to understand that man is not your competition. He is your gift. Woman is not your competition. She is your gift. And we've been given these gifts so that we can be together, expand together, grow together, and procreate together in a healthy way that allows us to respect the different positions that we must yield to one another. Submission is a necessary component. It's not a place of devaluation. When you submit, that's a high place of authority. Believe it or not, you're responsible for identifying a person who is worthy of your submission. You're not supposed to be out here submitting to any and every man, because you're not for any and every man. When this man had Blue Jasmine on his channel, he had more respect for her than he's had for any of these women. And he never interjected and made her feel little or small or anything like that, because guess what? he was getting his eye full of what he values. He valued sex working women and not hard working women, because hard working women are a constant reminder that he's in competition with the broken components of himself from him being in that marriage where the hard working woman was the high earner in the relationship and unseated him and rested him in femininity. Exactly. But even if we looked at the stereotype, we've got to be people that rise above identifying and disrespecting white women because they don't conform to our what we consider to be our standard, because they're calling the police or because they're racist or whatever. The name calling has got to stop. We've got to do better than that. We could just call a person a disgruntled white woman, you know, just like they are. They're presenting as. Jermaine says a woman with bastard children by lesser men because of sexual responsibility is not a gift. So Jermaine, thank you for coming to the show with your negative connotations and in your support of Kevin Samuels. But none of the women that we reviewed on this show tonight, none of the women that Kevin Samuels has had conversations with or devalued tonight had any children whatsoever. So I think that that goes completely against your argument, but also it unseats him, which is why he's definitely becoming untethered. But let's go ahead and hit this play button again.
No, Kevin, that's factually correct. And then in certain
Okay, I'll give you Wonder Woman and Demascara. Okay, ma'am. Fine. I'll give you all of the Amazon.
Facetious, no.
Yeah, because it's a facetious argument, man. Because when I hear women talk about, what about when they had matriarchies?
Like, I think that he really does believe that women-led countries were never in existence. And you know what? That's really disturbing. That's really disturbing. I mean, it's one thing for you not to graduate college, but you didn't learn anything in high school either. Do you really feel like there were no matriarchies in society and history? Do you really feel like there were no queen mothers, queen regents? You no, no, really? Like that. God. What does it say about our black men? Well, let's hit the play button.
And they had queens, the people who still ran the environments, who were the soldiers in these matriarchal armies, were still the men. The men were still the farmers. The men were still the hunters. The men were still in the army.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
So, but what I was saying before, and to the point, and coming back to what I was saying, is that because things have changed now and men are not required physically to do a lot of the things that, as you're stating, previously had to, how is there not then a codependency on men and women? And
we don't, because men are, okay, ma'am, the society that you live in, the men who are not required to do something are still being sustained by the men who are doing it.
So then what is their value?
Listen, let me explain it to you. Let me explain. No, don't, you're over talking me, ma'am. Please don't make me go there, because I know you can hear me. The men who are working the power plants, the men who are working the power grids, the men who are working the refineries and all these other things, they're doing their job. Then the men who are over here doing what they do. That has the society running. So these men don't have to do it because these men are. These men know that they were going to have to train these men to replace them. We know how to run a world we built. There are not enough women over here doing these jobs to sustain the population of women over here. There are enough men over here doing these jobs today to sustain the population of men today, because it's happening. That is the fundamental math you cannot get around. There are not enough women today doing the jobs to sustain a population of women who are not. You need us to live.
Is there then not an argument to be made that if there are these men that
can you at least acknowledge that before you make another argument?
Yeah, what I want to add
Can you acknowledge it before you
I can
add?
acknowledge what you're
Before
saying.
you acknowledge, can you acknowledge before you add?
Of
Because
course,
I don't like women moving the goalposts.
No. I hear what you're saying. Of course.
But you have not acknowledged it.
How would you? I'm not.
Would
sure,
you
I'm not
agree
sure
or disagree? Okay, would you agree that there are men running the infrastructure environment and men over here not running? But we have enough men running the infrastructure environment to where these men don't have to. Would you agree? That's the current setup.
Saying that there are men that are dependent on the other men that are running the infrastructure?
Yeah, the current setup, yes.
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you also agree that in the current setup, there are not enough women running the same set infrastructure to provide for the same population of women using the infrastructure?
Yeah, of course. I'm not disagreeing with that.
All right, ma'am. Well, if that's the case, what you're saying is the women who are in the minority over here can keep it running at a level to where what you're basically saying is you can't. I don't know if you understand the math of this, but I'm not trying to be funny, but you're basically trying to say a minority of women that already exists can keep an infrastructure running that it requires the majority of men to do. You're basically saying that, let's just give a number to it. Let's say for the infrastructures, women are running the infrastructure at a 20% rate. I'll give you 20%. That means 80% still by men. That makes a total of 100%. Running it for 51% of females and 49% of males. So 80% of the infrastructure is being run for 49% of the males. 20% of women are running infrastructure for 51% of the males. If we look at it, it's just male to female. Yep. But if you take that away, you're getting 100% production from the grid. 20% of women cannot produce for 51% of women when it takes 80% of men to produce for 49% of men. It's mathematically impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what you're saying isn't false. What I want to ask you, because I think there's a missing piece to this in terms of what I'm understanding in terms of what you're saying, is that if there are a certain percentage of men who are dependent on the larger group of men who have sustained this infrastructure, why do we need them then? So what's their value in this?
Okay, to answer your question, hold on. If there's a certain percentage of men over here.
Okay, so now we're getting into the conversation of why do we need them? She's identifying him. Why do we need men like you? Because obviously you're not one of these super strong men who are running these infrastructures and things like that. You're not one of those guys. Like, what the fuck? So what do we need you for? What do we need Kevin's for? What's the purpose of having Kevin's? Like, what's your value? If we're saying that women are only needed for procreation, right? Like, Kevin, show us why is it that we need you? Oh, but wait, I understand, because of course we get it now, Kevin, because men were squires for the real men who built the world and fought these wars. So the squires would also often have sex with these real men who ran. What? Now we get it.
Here surviving, and these guys are running the infrastructure. Why do we need these men?
So could you say?
Are you asking the question why are the men who are not running the infrastructure needed?
Correct.
Well, the men term them as necessary because those are our replacements. Those are the people who come in to do the job. See, there's always going to be somebody at the front of the peloton and at the back. See, men understand that we need each other and we're willing to do these jobs. Just like on the island, there were guys who hunted, there were guys who fixed nets. But we never tried to act as though one were greater than the other. We understand we need one another. Women try to act like everybody's equal and that you can all do it on your own. The reality is this, man, women in this country, in this world, you're running on override. Men have provided a world of plenty enough to where you could even make this argument. And for the audience, I need you to remember something. A key point. This woman, and I'm going to bring out your color right now, this white woman first came in saying that you were having this argument with who?
I'm sorry, it was an argument with I didn't hear the word you said.
You were having this argument with who earlier today?
Oh, no, it wasn't an argument. We were having a discussion about
discussion with whom?
My boyfriend, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got a man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do.
That's all I'm trying to make. You got a man. So understand something. You can make these womanist arguments, you can make these equality arguments, but at the end of the day, you still got a penis in the house. And hopefully you go home and use it, because it sounds like, putting up with you, as nice as you may be, ma'am, you must be a piece of work. Get out of here. Bye. She even had to laugh at that shit herself. Bye, Veronica.
So yeah, that's it. That's it. Let's get to it. So she was able to make her argument. I gotta commend her for that. The one thing that I want to point out to you guys, because like I said, this is about accountability, right? So I don't want to bash Kevin, but he bashes himself. I don't think anybody has to do that. But I think that she was able to articulate her argument. She definitely stuck to her points. And I absolutely love the fact that she was able to go in there and accurately break down and take away this ridiculous delusion that this guy lives in, where he feels like men don't have a need for women. Like, seriously? Like, seriously? Seriously, though? So several of his points were very misconstrued in this particular conversation. I think that he definitely needs to get outside of America and get some exposure to what men outside of America who don't need the validation of other men look like. And then maybe he could come back to the table and have a more valid argument, presentation of an argument or something like that. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, where we're looking at where Kevin lost this. And he really saw this as a win. I want you guys to know that. Because people who struggle with narcissistic personality components, they see these as a win, even if it's a clear loss. It's a So let's give Jermaine his 5 minutes of fame. Let's go back to his comment, producer. So for those of you who are joining this feed and you guys are checking me out and you are on Facebook, you definitely want to hit the link for the YouTube and go over there, subscribe and follow and hit the like button, all that good stuff to and notifications so you can have notifications when other shows are coming up. This is definitely a channel where we talk about accountability conversations around issues that are directly or indirectly affecting the Black and brown melanated communities in and outside of the United States. So Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson is definitely about accountability, largely, hugely around accountability components. So Jermaine here says, Lakianda, stop being disingenuous. Moments ago, you generally stated that women are a gift, which means you're including sexually irresponsible single mothers. So, this show isn't about single mothers. Kevin Samuels' show is not about single mothers. On the contrary, Kevin Samuels' show is about the devaluation of women in general and finding ways and logical sequences of presentation from Kevin Samuels to encourage men to go their own way and move into a place to where they're appropriately valuing women less, pedestalizing women less, and therefore dependent on women less, because he wants to build a world where men could sustain the world and be everything that they need to one another and have sex with one another, if you will, if we were to take it back to his argument and his previous engagement in this conversation, you know. So it said, you have a boyfriend, so I no, I think Kevin was saying that, because you have a man, you have a penis at home. And then he tried to make it out to like she was having an argument with the guy. What does that say about the way that Kevin sees constructive conversations with people? So, in the Black community, are you saying that we have an inability as people, men and women, to communicate in conflictual times without arguing and turning it hostile? We can have different points of views and have conversations. Good grief. But anyway, I hope that this content has been fruitful for you guys and you guys are able to see the becomings of Kevin Samuels in his deep-seated insecurity. I think that, you know, to go to your point of contention, Jermaine, women are definitely a prize to the man who selects them, regardless of however many kids they have. It's still that man's prize. Have you ever heard the terminology that one man's trash is another man's treasure? Or did you have a problem that led you to grabbing and gravitating to a woman of another culture and then renaming yourself, adopting a woman's last name? And is that the reason that you find yourself seated in your particular position? Because I'm curious about that component. Men who lose their own sense of self and lose their identities, typically in relationships, are considered to be beta males. I just want to make sure I make that very clear. And that's not to take you off of your pedestal where you pedestalized yourself, or maybe the woman that you married from another country other than yours, where you've adopted another name that's not you know, your name that you were given at birth. Maybe these are serious issues that you need to explore in therapy. Because a man who loses his identity is a man who needs a more secure sense of self. So that's just me being, concerned for your mental health and well-being. But like I said, this channel is about accountability. Um, you know, I'm glad that you admitted that. I'm glad you admitted that. But it's a name that you created for yourself. Hence, it's not the name that you were born with. So if your last name is Johnson and that's the name that you are born with, it's natural that you wouldn't change your name until you are married. And that's only if you're a woman or legitimated if you're a male who was born a bastard child, illegitimate person, or whatever. I mean, these are only facts. Says, I don't get the notion that Kevin Samuels is pro MGTOW, but pro old fashioned marriage. No, he's definitely not pro old fashioned marriage, because old fashioned marriages are not what he speaks of. Uh, one could say that he is. This is a recent. This one is a recent video of Kevin Samuels, by the way. I think it was a couple of days ago that he did this one. But let me say this: MGTOW is men going their own way by whatever means, for whatever reason. It's still men going their own way. So when men tend to go their own way and stray away from women, you're MGTOW whether you like it or not. I don't care if you took the blue, orange, white, red, green pill, whatever pill you took to help you get there. Facts are facts. He's clearly said in this video, and like I said, there's nothing that I need to interpret. These are just things that he said out of his own mouth. He clearly said that men don't even have a need for women for the needs of sex, because they could easily have sex with squires. The only women that men value are women that are in brothels. By the way, those are sex worker women. And I guess that definitely plays to the tune that he values his conversation with Blue Jasmine, because she's considered to be one of those women, though she denied it because it's illegal, you know. Who knows what these hot girls, city girls, pretty girls do? I don't know. So he said these guys move the goalposts. If you have children, you are awful. But if you are childish, childless, you're a selfish witch. I can't. Oh, Liz, let me tell you something. They only move the goalposts for somebody else. So to be honest with you, I'm gonna be very honest, okay? And I don't want to come off as an asshole, okay? But I do have a tendency to be abrasive and abruptly honest. So I'm beyond BS. I just am. Okay. The vast majority of women could give two shits less what a man thinks. That's the reality. because the vast majority of women have a very secure sense of self. They're rested in their femininity and it looks like exactly what they want it to look like, whether they do or don't have a man. But these vast majorities of women, I said women, not females, right? Just not females, women, they recognize that there is an innate need to pair themselves with a proper suitor, whether it's a man or another woman who is in a masculine capacity, so that they can continue to rest in their femininity, but also to continue to expand in their lives, because partnership is a part of longevity in life. That's what yields positive results for us. That's how we step into our blessings, if you will. Okay, by recognizing the value therein. So we have to recognize that there is a value in us being interconnected, interdependent on another person, with another person, and that's how we rise to and strive for and attain and maintain excellence in life. It's just a part of the process. So, so, you know, as I said before, some people struggle with identity issues and they reshape their identities, and some people come into their final identity, their virtue, via social media. We've watched the becoming of Kevin Samuels, and I hope that this content has been something, you know, educational for you. I think that education, elevation, insight is how we will continue to take charge of and continue to run this world and rule this world as human beings who are at a higher level, higher frequency of functioning. Okay, if you guys have not already checked out this content and subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do it now. I don't know what you're waiting for, because like, what's wrong with you? Don't you want these notifications? I won't be a bully like Kevin Samuels and say, get the likes up, folks, get the likes up, folks, and play annoying music in the interim, right? Until you do so. But what I will say is this: I appreciate you guys. Shout out to my chat, because my chat is always live. My followers are the absolute livest, and you guys have the most authentic presentation. I absolutely love, love, love you guys. Continue to send me content on people that you feel need to be held accountable for whatever their roles are in society. Kimoji, how are you? You missed this very influential component that I feel like you could have shed so much light on, hence the fact that you're such a heavy Kevin Samuels follower. So go back and watch this from the very beginning and give me your thoughts and reflections. I'm definitely looking forward to them. I'm always up for a very healthy debate, and I always like to know what you guys are thinking. I'm glad that the videos were eye-opening for you, Liz. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the content. So continue to share the content. Share, 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 push, push, push. Don't be selfish out there now, because everything that we share here has the capacity to give somebody what they're looking for in life and they need in life. And we never know what a person needs, right? At the end of the day, Kevin Samuel says a woman's value decreases over time, right? Time is of the essence. Your biological clock is ticking and all that good stuff. He made a lot of different comments, or to go to what Kevin Samuels often says, right? In his objectification of women, right? He always says, "You women, you tell yourself lots of things." Kevin, Kevin, my boy, you tell yourself lots of things. But I'm glad that you guys have been able to kind of see the pathology of Kevin Samuels and his framework. Okay. You guys got to show me how to share to community walls. I don't even know how to do any of that stuff. Like, I need a tutorial. But thank you so much. Let me see your transcript. So if you guys came in on the end of this video, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe and notification bell so you have notifications when new content is coming up. But more importantly, go back and rewind this thing, play it from the beginning, and elevate yourself. Become more conscious and aware. So that is all that I got, you guys. Be well, live free, and don't allow your life and your light to be dimmed by hostility and negative people who have had serious trauma in their history and as a result can't elevate to a higher level of consciousness, right? Nobody can dim your shine. See you guys later.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I'll rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. Phenomenon.